like to say that it's nice seeing all of you. You look a little older than you did last time I saw you. There was a rumor went around down at my church that some of the Indians we used to chase when I first went to work as a cop caught up with me finally. And tried to get even with me for all the things I did to them, so they kidnapped me and carried me away for a while. It was terrible. But I am feeling much better. Thanks to all of you for all the good thoughts and good prayers. I really do appreciate it. Still got a bug or two, but I'm gonna kill those rascals somehow. I'm not sure how. This is the 24th of March. This is a budget workshop. Appreciate each and every one of you being here. I want to ask you to stand to the Pledge of Allegiance led by Brad Brundrett. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on presentation for the budget workshop, we have presentation discussion on water and wastewater studies.
So, I don't like this setting because I can't walk and talk, but, this is kind of a loose discussion. What I have here is, I've given you the Corpus Christi Friday water memo. They were unable to make it today. We have Brian Williams from Sam Pat. He's gonna talk to us for a little bit. Brad, I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask if you could discuss a little bit of what you heard today.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you be able to do that, or do you think it's relevant?
It is.
Okay, so great. And then after that, I've asked Dan back because a couple of you were missing when he came last week to talk about the pass-through rate. So we need to talk through that, and we need to get our questions answered so that we can move forward, or not, on that. And that will be our water discussion, and then certainly any questions you have along the way, be sure and yell at them. We do have a hard cutoff at 4 o'clock for this. If we're still discussing it at 4 o'clock, I think we'll all be absolutely beat. But by 4 o'clock, we have to have moved on. So I would like to keep this to about 2 hours, so we're done by 3, if that's okay. If you still have questions, now's the time to get them answered, though. So just know that that's our one-time constraint. Yes, sir?
As far as water, this is all water related questions that we have, including the rate, possible rate issues. And
Certainly, if we can answer them. Brian, Mr. Williams here, is gonna be a good source for that. I don't see Ryan, but I anticipate him coming, and then we certainly can answer some questions. Keep in mind also, we have another field trip coming up to Alice, so it's a work session on water as well. So there'll be an opportunity there if more things come up from this meeting. Okay, any questions on water so far? Or the
I
process?
anticipate Ryan and Jeff being back in here probably about 15 to 20 minutes. I left the meeting early to make this.
There was a water meeting that today, starting at 11, so we knew we were pushing it, and I wasn't able to go, but Ryan and Brad and Jeff went, so maybe we'll have more information by then, but we're packing it in as much as we can. So with that, I'm gonna start with Brian, if he'll just give us a rundown of what he's got going on. Also, again, you have your corpus memo, you can ask us questions about that. That is not our product though, so.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I brought a presentation, and it may look familiar because it's very similar to the one I counted back the weeks. I think it was 19 weeks ago that I was here before on November the 12th. I'll kind of go through some of that presentation, show you some of the changes that have occurred since then, but we'll just get started. Of course, San Patricio Municipal Water District, Brian Williams. Danny Cox is here, one of the director that represents the city of Rockport. We provide water to most of the cities in San Patricio County, the industries. We've been around since the early 50s. We get all of our water from the city of Corpus Christi. City of Corpus Christi has pretty much all the water rights on the Nueces River Basin. They have a water contract with the Lavaca-Navidad River Authority for Lake Texana water. And then they have some water rights on the lower Colorado River. So just from the beginning of San Patricio Municipal Water District, we've been dependent on the city of Corpus Christi. We have a raw water contract with the city for about 45,000 acre foot, which is about 44 million gallons a day of water from the city for raw water. Then we also have a treated water contract with the city that's about 33 million gallons a day. We're not taking near that much water, but we have those contracts with the city. We have the raw water contract is in perpetuity. The treated water contract was a 40-year contract, probably has about 35 years left on that. So we have some long-term abilities to get water from the city of Corpus. Of course, when I was here in November, we were in a drought. That drought has continued. It's gotten worse. And so that's kind of where I'll be showing some of the comparisons. What do I point at? There we go. Okay, so like I said, it looks familiar. November the 12th, the last time I was here. This presentation just show you some of the changes, and I don't know if you can see that or not. Choke Canyon Reservoir, I believe I've got it marked out there, was about 10.4%. Back at that time, it's continued to drop. It's at 8% full right now. Lake Corpus Christi, and I can't read that, but it's at 9.1% now. It looks like 12.4% before maybe. The Nueces Basin itself, 10.9%. It's down to 8.3%. So we're just not having any rain, and the outlook for additional rain is not good for the next few months. So not very good conditions that we're looking at in the future. Drought's going to get worse. I think in my opinion, we'll be looking at some curtailments here in the next few months. The Lake Texana, it was at 72.7% last time. It's down at 52.7% right now. One of the rough things on it, Lake Texana is controlled by Lavaca-Navidad River Authority, and they have a drought contingency plan that when the water volume drops below 50%, there's a 10% curtailment. I think there is some negotiation going on right now with that. Governor Abbott, I think, may be giving them a buy to be able to buy a little bit time on curtailing some of that water coming from Lavaca-Navidad, but we'll probably see over the next couple of months, even if they don't have to do a curtailment at 50%, the outlook for hitting at 40% is going to be coming very soon too, potentially very soon also, if they don't get some rain in the Lavaca-Navidad Basin. So the outlook is really not very good. That's all I can say. Not really much to see in this slide. This was one that I did last time. It's been updated, but we won't talk about it. This was a slide presented last time. If you look to the right-hand side of that, you see the light blue bars and the darker blue bars. On the top of that, those curves are the demand curve. So when we were talking back in November, the outlook projection from the city was that the first time that the supply of water would not meet the demand was going to be in May of 2027, so that there was the potential for looking at curtailments November of 2026, so several months away. But again, some of these things have not developed. The little orange bars at the bottom are some of the wells. I think they are making some progress on that. This did not include the Evangeline-Laguna, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But anyway, on this graph back in November of last year, we were looking at the potential to go into some type of curtailments November of this year. So the city has updated that in the last few weeks. Go on to the next, this one, what they're calling scenario A, and this pretty much the worst case scenario that we're looking at right now. And instead of looking at May of 27, now they're saying this November, this coming November, November of 26, the supply bars may not reach the demand. So the way that the state of Texas looks at emergencies, water levels, the way the city of Corpus Christi, their drought contingency plan looks at water levels, when you're 180 days before that supply does not meet the demand, it's a level 1 emergency. So under this worst case scenario that we're looking at right now, we may be seeing the level 1 emergency coming as soon as May of this year, just a couple of months away. So it's a serious concern that we have. And the city is, I'll talk about a few of the projects that they're doing. They're probably in the report that Vanessa handed out from the city of Corpus, some of the different projects that they're doing. But it's going to be hard to make up that amount of water if we don't get the rain. And I may have said that last time when I was here. We definitely need to pray for rain, because rain is the only thing that will probably get us out of the drought that we're in right now. But worst case scenario, again, 2 months out, we may be going into a level 1 emergency, and that would be for the region. Yes, sir.
By your graph right there, again, that's the worst case scenario, which I think we probably better operate on. We've all been praying for rain, and we haven't seen any yet. When you're talking May, as far as I'm concerned, that's 30 days away.
Yes.
So am I correct in understanding that the city of Rockport could find itself 30 days away from a level 1 emergency? Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
Right now, and since you kind of asked the question in your mind is, what do we as the city of Rockport need to be doing?
Yeah. What triggers what triggers whenever this happens?
And I'll get into that. I guess it's the last slide, which probably not good information, but we'll get there and start talking about that. Let me just talk about a couple of things that we talked about last time. What is San Patricio doing? San Patricio Municipal Water District doing? In the short term, we are, I guess, I'll be probably about May 1st. We've approved a contract with a water well driller. They'll be drilling a well on our site. It'll be brackish water, just to expedite everything. This water will be going into the industrial side. Occidental Chemical and Commerce are paying for the well. It's about $1 million for the well. It's going in as a test well, because we don't even know what kind of water and at what depths we'll hit. We know in the close proximity, 5 miles away from where we're at, one of our industrial customers drilled a well, and at 800 foot down, which, that's kind of the sweet spot that everybody thinks about. When you talk about the Evangeline-Laguna water in the city of Sinton that is on groundwater, you're talking 800 to 1,000 foot deep. Up there in that area at 800 foot, the water is drinkable. You get down to where our plant is in the vicinity of Gregory, one of our industrial customers, at 800 foot, it was just about seawater, the salinity, 26,000 milligrams per liter TDS. So they cemented the well back up to 500 foot, and they got a TDS of about 6,000, which is still extremely brackish, will require reverse osmosis treatment, but that industrial customer is looking at a temporary fix to be able to offset some of the curtailment that may be coming, supplement their water supply during that period. So, so we're probably looking at the same thing. We're hoping we can get that kind of, we're gonna put $1 million in a well. We'd love to be able to get 1 million gallons per day. We know it's gonna be brackish. A rental unit for brackish water treatment's about $100,000 a month. Just the rental unit, not owning it, just operating. It's $100,000 a month. So it's not, it's an expensive.
And that takes it from brackish to drinkable, or close to drinkable, or industrial grade drinkable?
I like that.
I think I just coined that. But that's gonna take it to industrial potable.
They'll be able to use it for their industrial purposes. And that's one of the things that we're looking at. We don't have to go through the TCEQ to make sure everything's potable. But if we look at that this drought is continuing, you know, do we bring our, I guess we'll talk about that, bring our municipal customers into the fold, trying to drill some of these wells, putting some of the cost on that side. We may continue to, if we do this, we've got to work out all the, you know, think as we go, we're working on the fly. But that water may go to the industrial side, but the municipal side gets credit for it just because we don't have to deal with the TCEQ.
And that just reduces the amount of potable we've got to send to those guys.
Just trying to expedite the whole process, because we're gonna be, as you can see, we're running out of time, so. The alternatives, brackish groundwater, we have a driller under contract. He'll be moving on site probably around the 1st of May. We'll drill that well. It'll take several weeks. When we get that information on how the well is, we'll go ahead and turn it. The intent is to turn it from a test well into a production well, but we'll still have to get approval from San Patricio County Groundwater Conservation District for a production permit for that well. We'll start having to make arrangements with a contractor for the RO skid units. There's supposed to be plenty of them available out there right now, but that's just one well. But we have the ability between Oxy's properties, Commer's properties, San Patricio, and we're also talking to the Port of Corpus Christi. They bought a bunch of land around Campbell Airport over in that area, about 3,000 acres. We're talking to them to kind of consolidate all that land to be able to drill multiple wells. Looks like we could get about 6 or 7 wells that we might be able to develop about 5 million gallons a day. And so we're just working through the process. We've got to get the first well in, see where we're at before we move to the next step. So one of our customers, Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, I guess I can say they're putting in some wells on site. They're hoping that they can get about 3 wells in to help supplement the water during this period of time. Show a couple more slides. I think I showed this slide last time. That's the top right-hand corner in the middle of the light green area. That's Campbell Airport. Port of Corpus Christi has all that land area around it. It's about 3,000 acres. I believe the pink is pink, and I think it's pink. Oxy and Commer's property, and so San Patricio's the light blue. So we'll be consolidating all those areas, operating under the regulatory of the San Patricio County Groundwater Conservation District to look at, we can get some wells, how many wells in, how they're spread out. We were kind of surprised. Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, they've got 1,300 acres on their property, the other side of Gregory. I believe they were only looking at the maximum of about 3 wells on that property. So I'm not sure how. I would love to not have to spread all these wells out, but I'm afraid as we go into it, we may be having to look at spreading these wells out over that entire pink and green area, in which that just means you got to get transmission lines in there too to move the water around. So we'll just be working through the processes over the next few months and doing engineering on the fly, doing construction on the fly. My board of directors has considered this well project an emergency, so I have a lot of flexibility to move things forward with speed. So I think as we move further into it, we'll probably get that same declaration, hopefully on some other wells, and be able to move quickly on this. Had the wells, I guess, I think when I talked to y'all last time, right in the middle of the Evangeline-Laguna, in the middle of that green area, was the LI Ranch. We were talking to those folks about that being a future project for San Patricio Municipal Water District. When the city of Corpus started working, or had worked the deal on the Evangeline-Laguna, I wasn't aware of, or was not made aware of it. But when they showed their drilling program for the Evangeline-Laguna, the wells were right up around the border, against the border of the LI Ranch, within a couple of 100 foot of it. So when they, in the production permits that were submitted to San Patricio County Groundwater Conservation District, when those showed up and it showed the drawdowns on the LI Ranch, I think in 30 years, I believe it was a 100-foot drawdown on the LI Ranch, that San Patricio, we just backed away from the project and said, you know, if we're not going to get the benefit of this water, it doesn't make any sense for us. And since that time, the city of Corpus has made a deal with the LI Ranch folks, getting the water indirectly, but not directly like we had hoped before. Also, one of the third projects, and the city of Corpus Christi had looked at the Inner Harbor plant. They'd started permitting a facility next door to our facility at San Patricio Municipal Water District, their Oxy-Commerce. We sent a letter to the city of Corpus asking for them to consider sitting down, talking about them turning over the permits for the La Quinta plant, since they had so much trouble on the Inner Harbor. They've not formally responded to us yet, so I think they've probably answered our question that they're not interested in dealing with us, but haven't given up hope on it, but we'll keep on working that if we can. And that was, I guess, just the map of the area. The La Quinta plant was going to be in the proximity of Occidental-Commerce and us, taking water from Corpus Christi Bay and discharging to Corpus Christi Bay. So where are we now? What are we looking at with curtailments? 2024 Rockport consumption, 1,144,000,000 gallons per year, which worked out to 3.13 million gallons per day. Y'all did a bang-up job in 25. You did some great reductions. Don't know how you achieved those, but you did. Your consumption dropped to 893 million gallons for the year, so the average was 2.45 million gallons per day, so it's a 22% reduction. I think y'all may have some other numbers on that, Vanessa, but that's what our meters show. So as we move forward into this curtailment period, the first thing that we have to do, San Patricio Municipal Water District, to determine, and working with Rockport, what is your baseline? You know, over the last 3-4 years, what is your baseline number? And once we establish that baseline number, then we determine what a percent allocation is. The downside of this is my contract with the city of Corpus Christi says that whatever restrictions, methodology that the city of Corpus use, we have to use. Corpus Christi hasn't rolled out how they're going to curtail and how that's going to be implemented yet, so we're waiting on that. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a period of time, there is a period of time that we have to implement it after? You have 30 days.
30 days.
And then we have 30 days after
Yeah.
you, right?
Right.
So whatever the implementation is, we have an additional 60 days. I mean, if there's.
To prepare for, not necessarily
To
appeal or what have you, but to prepare for what's coming.
And it's gotta expand, I mean, if they haven't rolled out the plan yet, we all have to have some time to figure out how we're gonna react to it and implement these changes that are coming, so. The sooner that they can get that information to us, the better, and that's why I kinda put that subtitle there, or sub below that it trickles down from Corpus Christi Water to San Patricio Municipal Water District to Rockport. It's gotta
Right.
trickle down.
But since we're expecting curtailments, I mean, I don't think anybody would expect not right now. I mean, are you getting any indication from Corpus? I mean, is it next week, next month, August, November? Are they giving you any indication of when we could see their curtailment documents?
I think they rolled out here last week, this worst case scenario. And of course, I guess they did have one or two positives over the last week with, getting a bed and banks permit on their western filled wells. But I guess my hope is, at this point, sooner the better. We need to go ahead, because it's gonna take us some time to figure out how to implement these for all of us.
They have 5 scenarios that they've placed up there, and they're pretty confident that we'll skip scenario 1, potentially 2, which are the immediate curtailments, and push it off until October or November. Now, they're confident, we're not necessarily, because saying we're waiting on a little piece of paper when one is a bed and banks permit and one is a groundwater permit means something more than a little piece of paper. So they're confident in it, which would push curtailments out. But no, I would say very solidly, and I'm sorry to say this publicly, but they don't have a plan.
I'd say to answer for Brian, it's a moving target, so.
Every day.
You know,
There's
you never
very
know
much-
one day this is gonna happen. No, because the finish line, or whatever we wanna call it, keeps moving, and that's not your fault, it's those that you're getting the water from, those are the answers you're getting, it's a moving target.
Right, he's right, it's day to day, and it's not consistent day to day, so we're having to stay on top of it as it changes.
So if we know those potential curtailments and all that kind of stuff is most likely coming, I think that reinforces the fact of we better figure out what we're gonna do up here. And
Exactly.
we'll count on those guys and we continue to work with you and them and what have you. But our concern is the citizens of Rockport. And if the other folks do or do not ever get their mess together, that's fine, but we're gonna get ours together.
That's correct.
The downside of some of this is trying to read their minds on what the methodology is gonna be on implementation, so we're gonna be passing that along as fast as we know. You know, part of their optimism has been, Evangeline-Laguna groundwater. You know, at one time, they said November of this year, they'd hope to have 12 million gallons per day coming from Evangeline-Laguna. Then that got reduced to 4 million gallons a day by November of this year. And with the protests that are going on out there right now, they don't have the permits they're mobilizing on site and doing some things at risk, but, they're not drilling any wells at this point.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry. So even if they decided to do a plan, my concern here is I'm listening, they want to drill here, drill there. You have engineers, pipelines, you have all these things they all cost a lot. It all is and you already put money into the desal and then took it back and then you want to do it again. Even if they had decided to do, one plan, they're like, this is what we're going to do. Are they going to be able to afford to do what they want to do at the end of the day? Or all these things that they keep putting up in the air, spending money on, can we even trust that at the end of the day?
It's gonna be expensive.
Are they gonna
Water-
be able to afford
The
that?
price of water is going to be much more expensive, I'll put it that way. It may be kind of talking on what Vanessa was saying, and Vanessa, tell me to get down and shut up if you want me to.
No,
If
I
talking
want
too
us to
much.
be very clear
Uh,
on where we are and what's gonna happen. I don't want anything to be ambiguous.
You know, and yeah, I'm probably hashing up old stuff, but I've been down here 13 years. 10 years of that time have been working with the city of Corpus Christi, with the large volume users on both sides of the bay to move forward with desalination. The Inner Harbor was moving forward, and I probably mentioned this to you last time, but in September of everything had been moving forward until September of last year. the city council, the city of Corpus said, time out, we're not doing that one anymore. At that time, you know, there was a plan to move forward to something that we were working towards. Right now, it's hard to see anything that we're working towards. You know, they're trying to do this project and this project. They're running into obstacles on Evangeline-Laguna. The one that has been shown some production is the wells on the Nueces River. They've got an eastern well field and western well field, but they've upset a lot of the folks that live in those areas. Are they gonna be able to continue it? I hope so, because that's the water that they're actually developing right now. But they are looking at, I guess, the old CC Polymers plant that I guess they never did get off the ground. I guess the chemical plant that was going on the inner harbor that had a permit that they built most of the plant, it never operated. They're looking at it again. I think some of the industries on the Corpus side are looking at drilling some of their own wells, trying to mitigate some of this. Everybody, the industries, in fact, met with several of them on this side yet, or that we served yesterday, and they're concerned and they're all looking at alternatives, ways to try to mitigate some of this, because I think we all have a pretty good idea this is coming. And so, what can we do? I guess, I don't know if I'm still in, or.
Is there more slides?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Well, I guess I probably better go finish that. We've got to determine the baseline, and then at some point, okay, the baseline, this is the base. So 10% reduction, 20%, 30% reduction below that, where are we gonna be? We don't know. We're waiting on Corpus. Again, that'll trickle down from Corpus Christi water to San Patricio to Rockport. And then, city's not clear, we're not clear, the administration of those reductions. I can give y'all a 30% reduction, but can I institute penalties if y'all don't make those reductions? We're not sure yet. We're waiting on legal interpretations from the city of Corpus Christi on how we can move forward with that. So a lot of questions out there that need to be answered in the next 2 months, sooner than 2 months, 30 days, within 30 days, as soon as possible. We need to know those answers so that we can start preparing ourselves for this.
A lot of what you spoke about today, and I was zoomed in for your last presentation in November and caught that, talks about different folks drilling. It's not like 25 wells are getting drilled here, a pretty scary number, probably a lot more than that. You're talking about Corpus Christi, you folks, and other municipalities, and some of the industrial facilities drilling their own wells. Can you give us an idea of, I mean, it's probably just gonna be some kind of an estimate. Sounds like we're punching a lot of large commercial wells into an existing, I know there's more than one aquifer, but it's all basically one. What are we looking at as a region beyond even our borders here in because there's other municipalities just outside of the area you're talking about. They're punching wells hard as they can go because they don't have any water either. Are we doubling, tripling the amount of wells that are currently accessing the aquifer that we've been using? Has anybody even asked that question?
In San Patricio County, there's probably, city of Sinton is on groundwater, extracting like 1 million, 2 million gallons a day. The golf course north of Sinton there, I think they use some of that water, but that's really about the only people in San Patricio County that are utilizing groundwater right now. So I think that is probably one of the concerns that's out there. I think the water that we're looking at in our area, because it is brackish, nobody's used much of it in past history, so I think it's pretty well untouched. As you get up north, in the Sinton area, the city of Corpus Christi is looking at about 25 million gallons a day coming off the Evangeline-Laguna property. It's a big property, 23,000 acres. They're spread out pretty well, but we're getting into new areas where we don't necessarily know what the subsidence will look like, how the water quality will change over a period of time, the quantity, you know, if I'm assuming based on what I'm hearing from some of the geohydrologists that there is quite a bit of water there, but it moves slowly in the ground. It's not like the Edwards, it's not the Edwards Aquifer that, you know, is in a karst formation. It moves slowly, so it takes a while to redevelop. So the wells that right now, I guess what we're kind of thinking is the wells that we may be drilling for some of these industrials would probably not be utilized after this drought passes. I mean, it's going to be expensive water to go through the RO treatment. And so the intent probably at this time would be, you know, we'd keep the wells to make sure that they could be activated, bring in an RO skid unit as rental and treat water. I guess, but the other side of that we all have to consider, I know Dan Jackson's here, you know, our raw water rate from the city of Corpus right now is $1.36 per 1,000 gallons, and we have a treated cost on top of that. We're delivering water to Rockport. I think it's $4.05 per 1,000 gallons. One of the slides that the city of Corpus showed out there with several of these projects, I think it included the desal, Inner Harbor, the new Plan B desal, Evangeline-Laguna, these wells up and down the Nueces River, but they were looking at an increased cost of, additional cost of $4.92 per 1,000 gallons. So if you take that $1.36 that we're charging right now and add another $5 to that, that's going to increase our raw water cost, you know, $6.36. I don't know that we will have to, we've got to do some projects ourselves just to keep pace with everything, but you can plan on at least probably if those projects go through that the $4.05 per 1,000 gallons that we're charging now would go up $5. So we're looking at $9 per 1,000, which on the other side of that, then you have to look at, does it make sense to think about trying to put in some brackish wells and doing treatment? We just don't know. You got to ask yourself, what are the long-term effects? Can you keep on pumping on these for years and years? Will you eventually have to move to an ocean desal plant? You know, what does the future hold? It's previously, you know, San Patricio Municipal Water District, you know, rates have always been a big concern of ours. And when the city of Corpus Christi controls all the raw water and it's $1.36 per 1,000, it's, you know, it's kind of a slam dunk, you know, how you want to be operating in the future. But when you start having to add all those additional costs for new water on there, you really have to take a step back and consider some of the options that are out there.
And when you're looking at whatever amount of new wells, and these aren't residential wells, these are serious commercial, industrial level wells. I mean, I think anybody could foresee damaging and an already probably stressed aquifer system that we have. So it sounds like, you know, using these aquifers and doing some things there is probably in the short term what we need to be focusing on, but we better spend just as much time looking at long-term solutions that do not include groundwater. I mean, because it's already stressed, and now we're punching more wells than we can count. So I think anybody can guess where that's going to go.
But, you know, and you got to do a study and really consider all of it. Most of the wells probably that your citizens or someone else, or some of the old wells that may have been drilled in town, they're fairly shallow. They're not going to be in that deeper range. Of course, you have more production probably as you go deeper. But I really don't know that anybody's drilled any water wells very deep in this area to know what the aquifer holds for us. But it's an expensive expensive test too. Like I said, we're looking at $1 million for that test.
And none of it's guaranteed. Again, these are test wells you're describing. You can punch wells all over the place and do your testing, but it's all a gamble because you don't know what's there. So, thank you.
Can we go?
Anything else for Brian?
I'm not leaving for a while, so I'll be glad to.
Brian, one quick question, that we were kind of, at today's presentation from the, Nueces River Authority. That was the state of water, over there in Aransas Pass. So is there an ability for Sampat to tap into that production? I know it's scheduled right now for 100 MGD. They did say today that Corpus has secured 50 MGD. And then the rest of it, I assume, is gonna go up north through the pipeline. Is there any way for y'all to tap into any of it?
I guess we were offered the opportunity, at the time, and I probably still feel that way, that the cost of that facility with them going offshore is gonna be pretty expensive water, that if we have some opportunities for desalination, I would prefer focusing on potential for the La Quinta plant. I guess with the water that the city of Corpus, I guess reserved, I think it's just a reservation, there's
Yes,
no
sir.
commitment.
Yeah, just a reservation.
$2.7 million for 50 million gallons. We would, because of our contracts with the city, that water, a portion of that water would be available to us.
The number they gave, I guess some of the things I'm gonna say as far as what I heard today, it'll be maybe a question to you or whatever. Basically, the western reservoirs are extremely fatigued. Western reservoirs being the Nueces River, the Frio River, all those that flow into Choke Canyon and Lake Corpus Christi, extremely fatigued, and even a tropical depression sitting over there will probably not replenish those lakes in the near future. So obviously NRA is also talking about their desal plant, so that's kind of what we were talking about today. So what do we got to do to get off the western reservoirs, off some of the surface water? Their figure was $10 to $15 per thousand on that desal project. They did talk about some congressional, hopefully some congressional approval for some funding coming in the very, very near future. But we know how Congress works. So it may not happen anytime soon, but the president was down the other day and said he would help find funding. So any dollar that they get is a dollar. I say dollar. Any monies they get could also help bring that $10 to $15 range down. And I don't, if it may be beneficial to Sampat to have those talks with NRA still, maybe not, go to the reservations, start paying money yet, but desal may be our only answer in the near future. Further out than
Right.
drilling a well.
It's not near future,
Yeah.
but yes, it is a solution that's out there.
Mr. Bynum did say, he said, December of 2029, failure is not an option. So they will have their plant operational by December 2029, which to me, that's a very accelerated project. Thinking of all the things you gotta do, tunneling your pipeline underneath San Jose and underneath the Gulf of America to their intake and discharges. It's just a very, very fast schedule. I hope they can do it. That would alleviate a whole lot of things on our groundwater and surface water around here. If Corpus gets to 50 million gallons, and that's 50 million gallons, they don't gotta get out of the lakes. Let's see, what else? I took some pictures, some slides. Ryan, jump in if you can help me with anything.
So Gregory-Portland has also bought into the desal. They have some reserved already. I talked to Mr. Bynum, that's why we were so late, because I stopped and was meeting with him. He wants to get with us and set something up and talk, because that pipeline's probably gonna go down Wheeler or somewhere close, and it's gonna intercept right at our delivery points. He did say around $10 per 1,000 gallons. about Sam Pat, and he said y'all haven't obligated with him. I said, well, good, we're going to see Brian right now. But council has tasked us with looking at every option. This desal plant is an option for us without having an RO plant in Rockport. 5.6 miles to 188, that we were on the map from HEB and Aransas Pass where this water's coming in. We have an illustration of the pipeline coming in. So something that council and staff needs to look at. Hopefully something Sam Pat's gonna look at. I know we're going through this jointly, but every leaf unturned, I think, it's a good option. If we
5
don't have
miles.
to have an RO plant in Rockport, and we can buy treated water with less pipelines, it's kind of a pretty good option.
5 miles of pipelines can be a whole lot cheaper than an RO plant.
That's if we took it from HEB. That depends on if they came all the way to the bypass and
True.
our infrastructure's there. So just something that we want to look at. We have some more questions with y'all, and that's kind of why Brad was asking for what's the district's appetite for desal over in Aransas Pass.
This is the one that they're hoping for November 29 of 29, is that right?
December 2029 failure was not an option, was his.
Okay, so it basically, the end of 2029 is that's the one down there at Harbor Island or whatever?
Yes, sir, Harbor Island, this is through the Oasis River Authority. This has nothing to do, I won't say nothing. It is not a City of Corpus project. It is another authority in the state. Their powers are vested from the state legislature.
Okay.
And they are looking at a P3 project. You know, there's a lot of money out there in the United States where people can park their investments, and not necessarily a municipal bond, but it's a pretty safe place to park some of your investment and get a return on it.
And they feel they can get it permitted. I know there's several desals being looked at, but they're,
Already permitted. Everything's already, well, I say everything.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Their intake and discharge was, I took a picture of it. Stand by it.
My understanding, the old Harbor Island plant had a discharge permit that they went through 2 contested case hearings, but it was discharging into the ship channel in the bay. And I think they're in the public hearing stage for the intake permit.
Yes, sir.
And they do not have the discharge permit that's going out to the Gulf yet.
Yeah, the old discharge permit they didn't even ask for. That was one that, probably the port had.
Yes.
And with as much, public discourse that was going on with the Inner Harbor desal, they didn't even ask for that, so they went to get another discharge permit out in the Gulf, 1.4 or 1.8 miles offshore, something like that.
I think the leases are what they've obtained and the lease agreements for the property.
I took a picture of the slide. So right now, the GLO permit for the leases for offshore easements and obviously lease has been received. The TCEQ for the offshore water rights, public comments are ongoing, but I believe they just ended is what he said. So there was, I think he said 28 or 48 public comments that were TCEQ is going through. So I think the public comment period is now closed and they're just reviewing the public comments. That'll be on the intake in the Gulf. The next one was through Army Corps of Engineers to address potential habitat impacts for waters of the U.S. It was submitted in February 25, and permits have been received. So that one's good. The offshore discharge permit through TCEQ was submitted in April 1st of 2025. The draft permit was advertised February 26, 2026. So their draft permit has been issued, which there may be a few changes, correct me if I'm wrong, between a draft permit and a full issuance, but that's pretty good news to have the draft one, correct?
I'm trying to think, I think then you have to go through, I believe, the public comment
Okay.
period after the draft permit, so we'll see how the community responds. I
Gotcha.
guess.
And then the last thing was the easement amendment. So for the offshore discharge would be through the GLO. And that authorizes placement of structures on state-owned land. So the submerged lands out in the Gulf of Mexico are all owned by subject to claim by the state of Texas. So that means that any kind of structure you put over there, you gotta get a ground lease, underwater ground lease from the state. And those were submitted in January and February of 2026. We do have state support for almost all of these projects through Representative Hunter, State Senator Hinojosa, and even the governor is pretty well versed in all this stuff, trying to get us what we need moving forward. Maybe try to get some of the bureaucratic red tape, condense some of those timeframes.
I think one of the big concerns that I have is the cost of that facility. And of course, if the federal government steps in with grant money or the state steps in with grant money, that can be offset quite a bit. But just knowing the cost of that facility and are the grant funds going to the pipeline that's going up north towards San Antonio, or where their thoughts are. But I guess, I would love to see a pro forma of their cost, how they're coming up to $10 per 1,000 gallons for that facility.
And I don't know if that's a roundabout global number that they're using of other desal plants around the world of this is about what it takes to make water, $10 to $15, if that's globally, or if that's something that they've done the due diligence on and think that's what they're gonna charge around here. Well, I was gonna say one other thing. Sorry. It may come back to, it may not.
I'll keep on talking for a couple of minutes, maybe.
Can I just
I
make
think the
one comment real quick with the cost though? Just coming from council, I think yes, you can have, you're seeing up to $9 with just doing the wells. Wells dry up. That's not a long-term solution for me to give out and, present that to our citizens. Like that could go out if we continue having the drought that we have. If I have to then go to $10, and we have a long-term solution and we have a source of water that's not gonna dry up for us anytime soon, that's just easier for us to explain that to citizens. Like, I'm already gonna charge you more, but the water still might dry up. But, so that extra $1 or $2, that could be worth it if we have a long-term solution. I just wanted to make a little.
It's a great question, because one of the things, San Patricio County Groundwater Conservation District right now, you can develop 1.25 acre foot per acre, and that's how they're coming up with this 25 million gallons a day off that site. It's I believe, as I understand it, it's within the San Patricio County Groundwater District's authority. If they start seeing the aquifer pulled down more than they want it to, that 1.25 can be reduced. I believe Refugio County's 0.5 acre foot per acre. So all of a sudden that 23, 24 million gallons a day becomes a total of 12 million gallons a day. So exactly what you're saying, that, the seawater that's around us out there is an infinite amount of water. And
It came back to me.
Okay.
You touched on earlier, cheap water is gone. And until the heavens open up and recharge all of our aquifers and our lakes and our surface waters, we may start seeing, a reduction in water cost. But just by the sheer amount of projects and everything that are going on right now in Corpus and the amount of debt they're having to issue to get these projects online, cheap water's gone. So I think we all need to understand that. And Mr. Jackson may have that in his rate study. He may tell us y'all are in trouble. But
I think with regards to what we've enjoyed for quite a few years, green grass, brown will be the new green. So.
Just to quantify what I said on the $10 to $15 that he does have in the slide, it's worldwide average cost per 1,000. So maybe that is obviously it's a global figure. So
it's going to be going up in that 10 plus probably per 1,000 gallons coming from the district. And that's one of the nice things about Corpus's water. They can blend those costs with that assuming that there is water in the Nueces Basin, assuming that there is water at Lake Texana, they can blend that more expensive cost that's out there with that $1.36 per thousand, which really helps everybody as opposed to just trying to do one single expensive desal source, the price of that water on the customers.
I don't know, Ryan, if this question was answered, after I left, but, you know, that plan the NRA plan is 100 MGD. And Brian, you may know, was that a scalable plan? I mean, is it up to,
At one time, they were saying they could take it up to 450 million gallons a day.
there was a graph he showed, that came from the Texas Water Development Board, their water study, I guess, in 1999, whenever they started getting some of their funding. And it showed by 2080 that we would need 508 MGD for region, the L, just our region here. N and L, what was it, is L?
Yes, it's
Victoria.
Okay.
Victoria.
So region N, sorry. That our area would need around 500 million gallons a day, más o menos.
With no added industrial use, that was,
Yeah, that was,
Municipal. They put that in a factor because they couldn't add it in their equation, but you know there's gonna be more, so.
well, there already has been since 99. We've already added quite a few industrial users, so whatever that number.
But it will be interesting too, to see how as this water cost increases in our area, if we're gonna be as attractive to some of the industries coming.
True.
Because I know we were talking with a potential new industry and a big one, and they said, you know, $10+ per thousand gallons. We're not playing. They'll be looking towards Louisiana, Mississippi, where there is more abundant water, cheap water.
Do the plants have the ability to do their own desals economically?
So, I'm sorry.
The industry, as a new industry comes in?
I think they'll probably be looking at some alternatives as they see, you know, knowing some of the instability that they've seen over the last year or so.
Mhm.
Gulf Coast Growth Ventures,
Yeah.
$7 billion facility. They don't want to have to be dependent, you know, on knowing where their next drop of water is gonna come from, so.
And
I think it goes without saying, they're looking at alternatives.
and they have to have a certain amount of water to maintain their production. They can't just slow.
They're doing things that they can to reduce it, but, you know, 70% of the water San Patricio sells, goes to industry. And typically, the rule of thumb, about 80% of the water that industry takes is cooling towers. So they're just cooling their processes, and so a lot of that's going up, you know,
Just
steam evaporation, but they've gotta have water to operate. And it, you know, also operates in their, air cleaning systems, their environmental systems, fire systems. They've gotta have the water.
Ryan, did I miss anything?
No, I think that was it. It was just, we needed to bring it to council's attention and really wanted to see what the district's appetite was on that, because he did mention y'all. In Portland jumping on. I guess the only other question I would have is, y'all have contracts with the city of Portland, don't y'all?
Yes.
So if they're jumping on that, that's gonna do something with their contract with y'all. And so,
The way our contract currently reads with City of Rockport, with City of Portland, is that we will provide all the water. So I don't know where that takes us when we get into a situation that we are right now, when there's not enough water, but the contract uses the word all. So, and, you know, the cost of water, and I think, yeah, I'm pulling Portland out of the air because I remember, Portland uses on the average about 2 million gallons a day. I think what we said what y'all's was 2.45. But TCEQ rules, Yes, you're at 2.45, you're probably at
6 million.
3.5, 6 million.
We need 6 million.
6 million gallons a day that y'all have to have access to, that someone has to keep in their pocket, even though they're not selling the water. So, that's gonna run into some issues, who's keeping that water available? Is it your desal plant, or, your desal provider, or Sandpat, or who's keeping that water available for the city to meet the TCEQ regulations?
If we are, you talked about $10 to $15, hopefully closer to 10 per thousand is where we're probably going to end up. Brad's comments about cheap water's going are absolutely correct. But if we're hovering in that ugly area right there, can we, maybe this is a Robbie question or somebody with some math skills better than mine, but where are we at today? I think it was mentioned earlier, we're down around, by the time it gets to us, it's about $4.
$4.05.
Okay, so we're expecting a threefold increase, is that right? Going from 4 to 5? What's that?
4.67% increase roughly is what he was getting at. So it would kick us up closer to almost $19 from using what he was talking about, where Corpus was seeing their increase, and if that gets passed through,
Okay, so
we'd be up over $15 for sure.
Okay.
Per
Well,
thousand.
for, again, people that are not good at math like myself, if somebody's got if a citizen in town has $100 water bill, maybe a little high, what's our average? We have an average on it's like $50, $75 a month. But let's just use 100 because it's easy for math. If a resident in the city of Rockport today is seeing $100 water bill, just for the water portion, that sounds kind of scary what their water bill might be, in 36 months when we get to work.
I think you can see it doubling.
Yeah, and if it, hate to say it this way, but if it only doubles, we better think we're lucky. Is that, guys, that's what we're concerned with here is the citizens of Rockport and what they're currently paying today. I don't see any way that it doesn't do that within the next, we're talking months, 10 to 30 months or something like that, when all of this desal gets built and you guys drill wells and all of these rates go up. So I just want to make sure that I was understanding that right, that we could see something like that happen and that it's most likely going to happen.
Do you have, what's the next rate increase? Do y'all have an idea?
No.
Not
No,
yet.
we haven't gotten the
Oh,
information
from
from Corpus, how it's
Okay,
gonna roll
all right.
into theirs. We just have right now the $1.36 per
Yes.
thousand that runs into our raw water rate. And there was a slide, I think, Brad, I think you saw that one, that was on, I think I saw it on Facebook. I'm pretty sure it came out in one of the Corpus, presentations, but it would be an additional $4.92. So where I'm going with that, we're at 4.05. If our raw water cost goes up another $5, my treatment cost to use for treated water is about $9. So that number's doubling.
You mentioned the contract with the city of Rockport was similar to the one in Portland, or where it was you were mentioning there a minute ago. It actually states all water will be supplied by you folks. Is that what the current contract?
That's what it says.
This may be an art question, but when you guys are looking at forced curtailments on you that you'll have to pass on to us, is there some wiggle room there for the city to yeah.
Definitely a legal question.
Yeah. Well, it's,
No.
yeah. We can't sit here and let y'all turn the pipe off.
I feel
because the
I feel
contract
what
says,
you were,
I
exactly.
think what he's asking is, are you gonna hold our feet to the fire on that if you're unable
Yeah.
to provide what we need? Go to another source.
I hate to
That's a
say
lawyer
it,
question.
there's a contract out there and,
Yeah.
and, we'll,
And I don't think anybody, I'll speak for myself, I don't know that we have any interest in stop doing business with you, but when those type of scary curtailments are coming, again, we have to protect the citizens here, and we have to look at a plan B that may be supplemental. We'll continue buying whatever we can from you, but if, we've got to have some breathing room.
I think where I would see it going, I'm gonna retire, but, where I would see it going we'd have to sit down and, if y'all wanted another source, renegotiate that contract and how those costs are, because I don't think it would be fair to us to carry that 2-3 million gallons that the TCEQ requires, but yet you're not buying it from us, so I think there's things that can be worked
I
out.
just wanted to bring it up, because it's,
Open up that contract, they're gonna have something beneficial for them in it too.
We're in uncharted waters here, you know, especially for our area. I don't think anybody's, at least maybe not in my life, not that I can remember any phase of my life, but, you know, curtailments and having to deal with this, you know, contract law of, hey, we're gonna go get our water somewhere else right now because you don't have any water to give us. And I don't think, yeah, I mean, the force majeure is in the contract, but it's, yeah, I just don't know that that's ever been put into effect. And
tested.
or, yeah. I'm sure there is case law somewhere, but.
We're all in uncharted territory right now. We're trying to find our way.
One thing, council, y'all had, questions or concerns on, the aquifer supply. This is some information we'll probably get on Friday, but when we went down the other day, down to Alice, there in the Jasper aquifer, and their what'd you call them, hydrogeologist? I mean, that's a big word for me.
Geohydrologist,
I mean, what-
hydrogeologist, I never can remember.
The
if
water
it's
guy,
a G or
the water
H.
guys.
The underground
Yeah,
water guys.
They said that Jasper aquifer for the Alice area, so that portion of Jim Wells County, had an 800-year water supply underneath them right there for what they're planning on using and what the aquifer looked like for that area. So now that's not the Evangeline, that's much deeper than what the Evangeline is. So, you know, and I don't think everybody's poking holes and putting straws in the ground into the Jasper yet. So.
Very, very few, and it's because it is deeper and more expensive to get to. And the salinity, I wanna say, is about 3,200 milligrams per liter, so there's other fresh water around, they're not gonna be drilling into that.
And then we don't know what our water's gonna look like underneath Rockport or in Aransas County yet.
And that's one of the things that, I don't know, I need to study it a little bit more because, as I was mentioning, one of our industries drilled down to 800 foot. I don't think it got into the Jasper, but I mean, it was pretty much seawater.
Yeah.
At 800 foot. So I don't know if you keep on drilling, if there's a
It gets
fresher
better.
source down below that or not. I don't know that.
I mean, the more salinity and TDS that we have, the more expensive it is to treat it and make it
Right.
drinkable, potable,
Right.
make it work for us.
Yeah, the treatment process takes more pressure to to remove the salt from it, so it just gets more expensive as the salinity increases.
Mayor, we've been at it about an hour, a little bit over. Do you wanna take a 5-minute and,
We can do that. We'll start again at 2:20.
okay. And then certainly if y'all have any questions for Mr. Williams as we go forward, I think you'll be here for a little.
I'll hang around. Bob.
And then we'll pick back up with, Mr. Johnson, if that's okay with you guys.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank y'all, appreciate it.
Recess.
Not sure, yeah, I don't know.
Kind of right there, right?
I think you're saying they're $1.36 now, and then it was gonna be another $5 on it, or $6.36, it is, I just divided $6.36 by 36. No.
Because I think what you would see. Oh, yeah. Which is $2 rate plus something for your distribution costs.
Oh, right.
So my cost to you would go from $4.05 per thousand gallons to $9.05 per thousand gallons. It's been just 2 or 3 years. All these projects move forward. That's what we don't know. That's what
That's the password.
because we don't know if Corpus is gonna move forward, if Inner Harbor, we don't know if President Trump's gonna throw $500 million in grant money to that. There's just too many unknowns. But you gotta be thinking about the possibility.
Sooner, I think.
And she said it's really good.
That is clearly the future of water. It's going to be expensive, but we're rapidly getting to the point where our decision is to have expensive water or no water. We're not gonna run out of water in the Gulf of Mexico.
One of the, you run into the other question of that. In my mind, there's enough assimilative capacity to put a couple of desal plants on Corpus Christi Bay. It's gonna be cheaper because you're not building pipelines out, you're closer to yourself, you're closer to your transmission sources, so.
Hi, I'm Diane Peterson.
Then they need to tell us where the water's coming from, right? You know, it's the only thing they don't want to drill, they don't want to drill the oil, right? Okay, great. What are you
I'm
gonna put
going
in
on
your car?
Thursday morning.
The other side, these people with
You're doing Caribbean, right? Development, building.
cut off the water.
Great, I get to come back.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
No fun to be sitting up there.
Good, how are you?
Yeah, no, we have a.
So you were seeing on.
You never see dollar.
Well, it's his fault, right? It's his fault. It's like coming downtown. I know, right? OT. Yes, exactly. How are y'all doing? This is Jeff Stroster. Oh, hi.
How are you? Pleasure to meet you. Heard good things about you.
I know, we had.
$5 more for this one.
Hi, boss. Did you get my text?
What happened?
I texted you between 12 and playing catch up, I guess. I was out yesterday in the training. It's been all water.
Welcome aboard. Welcome back, as I understand. One of the few things Vanessa's put out are that because people need to understand.
Because this does not affect your distribution. Correct. Should not affect your distribution.
No, correct. Exactly. That's what you're trying to say.
Orderly peer run, right?
So you're 136.
No, we didn't talk about that.
The $5 more on yours. You gonna be the 636, so that's why I took the 636 divided by 136.
Right, exactly. She's gonna.
No, I'm sorry. It's not a multiplier, just it adds.
It's about, right now, it sounds like her cost. Net
About $275 per thousand hours. So
Those, that cost will go up to 5 to 7, like everything else. But it's the raw water cost, that goes from $1.30 to $5.36, and you add $275 on top of that.
We'll do the, we eat pretty good.
Yes.
It was 2 weeks in Las Vegas.
You being a great guy, you'll understand this. Corpus is trying to put all of the desal calls
Overloaded today, because I went to that lunch.
without a treatment component to it. So we will be at the PUC with the city of Corpus Christi.
Yeah, that's not a reasonable thing to do, because it's not a raw water cost.
There is a treatment,
it's a
there is
treated
a
water
treatment,
cost.
there is a treatment portion to the cost.
It's a treated water cost, basically.
I told you the story before.
They're not producing, they're not using desalination to produce what is raw water that is then treated. They're producing treated water.
Swimming out of the lake into the horse
There's
in low spots.
Because we're using Ractel. Yeah, what I told my board of directors.
Right at 2 years, we went from that.
Come back and represent the city, or in a PUC case.
I think Andrew had a good because everybody's punching real quick to try to solve this. Those are probably short-term issues because we're gonna feel it.
We are, they stole our, who's the other guy? We were using the, they stole. So we picked up.
No, that's fine. If you don't,
In Jackson.
So we preserve our things that make it Rockport.
I'm sorry.
How's your situation?
Same, I can't get my radar here to change the codes, so I'm trapped. Until it changes the codes, I can't. I just gotta keep San Patricio whenever I'm sick of it.
Yeah, it's no good. You gotta deal with the pain every day.
Every day. That's why I agree.
That's that.
I'm serious.
If we were gonna do it, that's what we're looking at. It could be Monday.
Down in the South Pacific. Poisons you. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. It takes care of us. And we could do it ecologically, sound. This thing about groundwater.
So is desal considered treated water?
I think it is. It comes out of the desalination plant as potable water. So it sits in one half dozen of the other. I mean, they can call it whatever they want as far as the city of Rockport is concerned. You know, your cost is your cost. Whether they call it raw water or treated water or whatever.
Fenced in and
To them,
something acres with the.
they want to get into a multi-million-dollar fight with who you see or how you characterize it. They want to waste the buck.
We hadn't even got into that.
Well, you have to mix it in with the water that you got. There's some blending process, and what I understand is when you desal water and you blend it with fresh water.
You know, they're different, similar, but
I don't know that it involves chlorine at all.
water treatment.
so pretty. I know, I was like, look, I have all my shirts. Very bright, it's very young.
If we're looking through all the old school files that Travis George, his art, and they're all in the same room. My old office, and I'm just going like, look, and I'm this big stuff that. No, it's in the yellow.
My parents.
Come up there.
No, he did. He told me not that one.
Right in the middle of the state, just barely.
If you build your own
El Dorado, Arkansas.
got it here.
That's why we didn't. We got it all.
It's a picturesque thing, I think. You look at Arkansas, it's like right there.
But through San Pat.
I just got the forehead, I didn't.
You know, you should just be paying a straight rate for 1,000 gallons. I mean, you wouldn't be paying a capital cost or anything.
I was talking about the one that we wasted, and I'm going crazy.
You're talking about the one in.
Oh,
Yeah, that one would go through Corpus.
that's when they were talking about, where it comes out 360, when the pipeline comes out.
Around here.
Makes sense. Because that here is down.
lot of discussion back here.
We didn't beat you up, did we?
No, no, no.
He's like, I don't give a. Hey, May, adios, boys.
HEB is on 361 and it ran and that's where the junction of where the
I
pipeline
wish NRA would give us.
they go all the way up to
We'll do them together. If you'll get it to fill out, all I do is take them and put a number on.
Now, they're right about Shelby, 5 miles away. If it stops at ADJOURN,
anything is possible.
very far. I said, if you keep going down Wheeler, down that way, you're gonna intersect our line.
Provide us.
I need water.
And if force majeure is called,
Right now, the cost is right.
it's,
True.
anything can happen. Because when we have our
What is
stations,
it, Pat? That's what he told me. That's what he told me.
Show me the numbers.
But, yeah.
Show me the numbers.
But that's what he said, Brian, and I was like, but that's who I get.
when you're in an emergency
I need to
situation,
understand this.
What's the good number? Is it 4, 5 is the good number?
I'll come talk to you.
Every day, they're lowering.
it's a contract that is broken. You keep saying.
I think they're listening.
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Appreciate it.
Sorry.
Hello.
Barely. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Talk to him. He's wrong. We're done speaking.
Okay, budget wise, Vanessa?
I'm sorry. Okay, now, we're gonna move into Dan's presentation. I don't anticipate a lot of changes from the last one, but, something he heard might have just changed his perspective. Anyway, go ahead, Robbie,
It's gonna be even
please.
more expensive. Now, okay, I want to introduce Dan Jackson, again, for those of you who were not here last time. He did our rate study back in August of 2023, the full rate study. Since then, of course, we've gone into stage 3 water restrictions, so we reached back out at council's behest to do a short study and look at where we are now, because we knew things had changed drastically with a 30% reduction in the sale of water, and with where we are today with the drought. So and escalating costs, because we've also had 2 rate increases that have been pushed through Pat MWD, and we wanted to try to do something with that where it would be automatic, that those costs could be pushed through, because there's going to be a lot more coming, as we just found out. So
Thank you, Robbie.
introduce Dan Jackson.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. When he got through a while ago and sat down, it looked like you had a folder in your lap, and it looked like you had put something in there. I thought, he's fixed to walk out the door. We gotta have another study. Thank you for being here.
Well, actually, that's one of the scenarios that we're going to show you may avoid the need to do a significant amount of additional analysis. Because, as was pointed out here, one of your most significant costs are going to be the pass-through costs of the raw or treated water from Sandpat. And so if you were able to isolate those costs into a separate charge, then the remaining costs you have for your distribution system and your administration, those are just gonna go up as costs normally go up from year to year. But another important factor of any study of this nature is that many of the costs of a water system are relatively fixed. And so the ultimate rate that you charge to a customer is highly dependent on how much water that customer uses. One of the most significant factors that has changed since the completion of our 2023 study is the fact that usage per capita here in the city has plummeted by almost 30%, which in my 40-year career, I have very rarely seen declines of that magnitude. And of course, there are a lot of external factors for that, due to the drought. But
Water is a funny business. It's a business where you are producing a product. Water is a product like a McDonald's hamburger or a gallon of gasoline or anything else. You're producing a product that you would prefer your customers not buy because you want, for environmental reasons, you want people to use water prudently. You want them not to use any more water than they have to. And there are external factors that are gonna factor in how much water people use. But as people use water more prudently, that hurts you in terms of revenues. So you have to adjust your financial forecast accordingly. So I know that a lot of you have already seen this presentation, but I will go through some of the highlights of it. Okay. Looks like, yeah, it looks, is there a way to get this on presentation format? Yes, it's a PDF. I think if that way it clicks from page to page. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so as Robbie said earlier, the city wanted me to take another look at the 2023 rate study and present to you all some alternatives for revisions. You know, a financial forecast is not a guarantee. It's a prediction based on a series of reasonable assumptions. And some of the assumptions we made back in the 2023 timeframe have changed fairly significantly. You know, obviously, the stage 3 water restrictions have been the biggest single factor. When usage plummets by 30% per connection, that is going to have a very significant impact on what your rate ultimately is going to have to be. Sandpat's rates are going up a little bit more than what we forecast in the study. That is not a criticism of Sandpat at all. It is just a reflection of reality. And as was indicated in the presentation earlier, they may go up a lot more if desalination is pursued as aggressively as what it looks like. For what it's worth, as a person in the water industry for 40 years, I will tell you that the future of the water industry is desalination. It's only a matter of time as to when it becomes the predominant source of water supply, certainly for this region of the state of Texas, but for much of the country. We're not going to run out of water in the Gulf of America or the Pacific Ocean anytime soon. But many areas of the country, you know, you look at the Rio Grande Valley area of Texas, you look at areas in California, you look at areas in Florida. And the question they have to answer is, what would we rather have, expensive water or no water? And that is the choice that we are rapidly going to face. Yeah, it's gonna be rough to pay $10 to $15 a thousand gallons, which is what the general, you know, nationwide average is for produced treated water from desalination. That's not gonna be great, but it's better than the alternative, which is either to suck all the water resources out of the ground until there's nothing left and we've got a bunch of sinkholes here in the state, or we just get used to the fact that water is going to be slightly more expensive in the future. Another thing, we also, when we did our update, we looked at your growth numbers, and your growth is a little slower than forecast, not significantly. You're definitely still seeing some growth, and you have increased your general fund transfers to reflect the cost of both administrative transfers and building and maintenance transfers as well. So as a result of all that, we have revised the existing rate plan. So I want to present just a couple of quick background charts here as I go through this presentation, because I think it's important for decision makers such as yourselves to have this perspective as you look at the magnitude of the rate adjustments and the burden you are asking your ratepayers to pay for water and sewer service. This chart right here is a comparison of monthly water and wastewater charges for 5,000 gallons of service between the city of Rockport and several of your neighbors. 5,000 gallons is a good comparison because the average here in Rockport is actually a little less than 5,000 gallons right now. So as you can see, the average Rockport residential customer pays $97.33 for 5,000 gallons of water and sewer service. That amount is right about where you would expect it to be. You're a little higher than some cities, you're a little lower than others. The true question that seeks to be answered from a chart like this is, are you asking your ratepayers to pay a disproportionate amount for water service than what other people are paying in this part of the state of Texas? And the answer is clearly you're not. You're right about where you would expect to be. Another important factor to take into consideration whenever you talk about rate comparisons is that 30 to 40% of utilities charge rates that don't cover their costs. So just because a neighboring community's rates are lower than yours, that doesn't necessarily mean that they run a more efficient system or they're smarter than you or anything like that. It might mean that they're using their general fund to subsidize their water and sewer rates. Well, as a great politician once said, the problem with subsidies is that sooner or later you run out of other people's money. And every dollar you use to subsidize your water and sewer rates is a dollar that you do not have for other vital city services. So while subsidizing water rates is not illegal, it's not necessarily good financial policy. So rate comparisons are of very limited usefulness, but I think we can certainly agree that what you're charging is kind of the norm for this part of the state of Texas. Okay, just a little bit of background charts. One of the things that's always been really interesting about the city of Rockport, at least for rate consultants like myself, is that you have a higher percentage of outside city customers than what you typically see for a city of your nature. It's not unprecedented, but most cities only serve maybe 5% of their customer base outside the city limits, if that. Many cities don't serve any customers outside the city limits. You have an unusually high number, and that factors into what your ultimate rate plan is going to be. You have about 10,529 water customers, and you've got about 6,600 wastewater customers. Now this chart right here is a key chart because this is the true impact of the stage 3 water restrictions. We completed the rate study in 2023, right about the time the drought started. And so at that time, of course, since we weren't able to forecast that there was going to be a several-year drought, we assumed that water usage would continue to climb at the rates that it had been climbing in the prior several years. You can see in the years 2021 through 2023, you had a slow but steady increase in your water consumption, and we forecast that that would continue. But as you can see, shortly after that, the release of the rate study, the usage plummeted by almost 30%. And so our challenge in doing this update was, do we assume that this drought is a temporary anomaly and that it's going to suddenly start raining again and where things are going to go back to normal? Or do we assume that this is basically the new normal? And I think it's better to be as conservative as possible, plan for the worst and hope for the best. And so our revised assumptions are assuming that the drought and the water restrictions and the limited use by residential customers is going to continue into the future. Now, once again, water is a classic bulk commodity. If you're going to sell less, you're going to have to charge more in order to ensure that you recover all of your revenue requirements. Now, there are some limitations and there are some variables there. But for the most part, since many of your costs are fixed, the fact that your water usage has declined so much means that you have to adjust your rate plan accordingly. Okay, so, again, I'm having trouble with this. Okay. Oh, there you go. All right. So, what are the revised assumptions that we used for this new forecast? First of all, we did a new 5 to 10 year forecast of your water utility. We forecast every single line item in your budget. Most of your operating expenses we're assuming are going to increase by about 3% a year. Cost of everything goes up by 3 to 4% a year, so it's reasonable to assume that those costs are going to increase. Certain expenses like chemicals, maintenance, electricity, those costs, workers' compensation, we're assuming those costs are going to go up a little bit higher than inflation because that's what they typically do. For the purposes of this study, we're assuming that the sand-pat rate is going to increase by about 7% per year. It may end up going up a lot higher than that, but I'll address that a little bit more in a few minutes. We have assumed your annual transfer to the general fund for salaries, building maintenance, and franchise fees. And we're assuming that the city is going to issue as much as $25 million in debt to fund capital improvements for the system. There is some variability and there is some discretion you have in how much capital improvements you do to a system. and the quality of those capital improvements as well. And that factors into what your rate plan is. You know, rate making in one sense is not rocket science. You tell me how much you need to spend on your system, and I'll tell you what the rates have to be in order to pay for it. Now, when it comes to capital improvements, I mean, you can take the Cadillac approach or the Chevrolet approach. You know, you can build really first-rate quality assets, spend a lot of money on them, or you can be a little bit more discretionary in what your expenses are. But the bottom line is that what this financial plan does is it gives you about a $25 million threshold at which you would decide what are the capital improvement projects that are most necessary, just, and needed by the city. Okay, as a result, as you see from this chart right here, your total cost of your water and wastewater operation is about $16.3 million in the current year. We're forecasting right now that that is going to go up to about $20 million by the year 2030. But once again, that assumes that the SAMPAT rate is going to go up by 7% a year. If it does, so we're obviously seeing continued significant increases in your total cost of service. So we know our costs are going up. We know our usage has gone down, so we know we have to adjust our rate plan accordingly. I've often said that rate making is as much an art as it is a science. There's a lot of different rate plans that you can adopt that will get you the revenues that you need to fund your operating and your capital expenditures. The question becomes, what is the most fair, just, and reasonable rate plan? Cities such as yours have a wide variety of discretion in order to decide what the ultimate rate plan or fair and reasonable rate plan is going to be. As a result of that, we're going to provide to you a couple of different alternatives. There's a lot of different, heck, I could provide you 100 different alternatives, but somehow I don't think you want to sit through 100 different alternatives. So we've narrowed it down to two basic alternatives right now that we will present to you in this study. The first alternative is what we call the status quo option, but it does have a little less debt than what we assumed in the 2023 study. Okay? The status quo option basically leaves the rate design the way it is and implements a series of percentage increases on your water customers and your wastewater customers in order to meet your revenue requirement. Doesn't change the rate design, but it does increase them by certain percentages. Under this plan, you would need to do two adjustments in 2026. We would recommend that you do an immediate adjustment. I've got it identified as March here, but we probably won't make March, so it'll probably have to be bumped into the April or maybe even the May timeframe. And then another adjustment in October, which is the beginning of your next fiscal year. We would then recommend that you do an annual adjustment in October of 2027 and October of 2028. So basically 4 adjustments: April 26, October 26, October 27, and October of 2028. In the 2023 rate study, we identified and conclusively showed that under rate-making methodology, the cost to serve outside city customers is greater than the cost to serve inside city customers by a factor of about 20 to 25%. So we established about a 20 or 25% premium for outside city customers. In order to reach that premium, we would recommend that you do not do an adjustment in your outside city rates in April, but you do begin to adjust them again in October. That will get you at the 20% threshold, which would be a fair, just, and reasonable rate for outside city customers. We also would recommend that you slightly draw down your fund balance in order to minimize the need for rate increases. The great thing about a fund balance is it's like a rainy day fund. What many cities do with their fund balances is they use it to supplement rate adjustments on occasion in order to minimize the impact on ratepayer bills. And that's what we recommend that you do in this sense. So what does it mean? Well, in this chart right here, the upper bar chart is what was projected in the 2023 rate study. See, you adopted a 3% water rate adjustment and a 9% wastewater rate adjustment in October of 2025. The study projected that you would need similar rate adjustments in 2026, 2027, and 2028. Under this revised plan, we recommend that you do a 5% water adjustment in March and an 8% wastewater adjustment in March. We also recommend similar adjustments of 8% for wastewater in 26, 27, and 28, and 8% in 5% for water in 26, 27, and 28. Now, one question you might have is, why do we do an additional wastewater rate adjustments if people are using less water? Well, if they're using less water, they're also using less wastewater. So the billing units have gone down, so there is a need for a upward adjustment in the wastewater rates. The next couple of charts have a blizzard of numbers on them. They're not that, but what I really want to emphasize is the chart that shows what the impact is on a monthly customer's bill. So the next couple of charts, like I said, just show what the residential inside rate is. You see for residential inside customers, you have a base charge. For most of those customers, that base charge is $29.95 right now. And you see the adjustments for each of the next 4 years. Here's the outside city rate. You can see the adjustments. No adjustment in March, but adjustments in October of 26, 27, and 28. And then here are the wastewater adjustments. Now the question everybody asks when they see a chart like this is, what does this mean in terms of what people will pay? What's the real impact? I like to joke that I live in Denton, just north of Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm a water rate consultant. If somebody asked me what my water rate was, I couldn't tell them. I don't care. I know what my water bill is each month, but very few people really concentrate on what the water rate is. They want to know what their monthly charge is and how much it would change under this plan. So this is the chart that matters. Remember, your average customer here in the town of Rockport uses about 5,000 gallons of water and wastewater service a month. That customer pays $97.33. Under this rate plan, their customer bill would go up by $6.38 a month in March. That's about a 6.6% increase. It'd go up by about another $6.50 in October of 2026. And it would go up by about $7 a month in October of 27 and October of 2028. That's about a 6 to 7% increase in each of these 4 adjustment periods. So that's, now, the average water and wastewater utility is raising its rate 5 to 6% every year. So for the most part, these adjustments are pretty much within the average of what other utilities are doing. As a rate consultant, I can tell you that utilities all across the state of Texas are increasing their rates, and this is a pretty standard level of rate increase. So while it's never easy to ask ratepayers to pay more, obviously nobody wants to pay more, but this is not outside the margin of what most in many cities are charging their ratepayers. So, and you can see the commercial charges. The average commercial customer here in the town uses about 25,000 gallons of water and wastewater service a month. Now that number is much more variable because a commercial business is anything from a mom and pop flower shop to a Walmart. So obviously commercial customers are going to vary quite widely. But for a 25,000 gallon customer, their bill also goes up by about 6% a month. Okay, so now for your outside city customers, as you can see, their increase would be slightly less in March of this year, but it would be the same percentage increase in October of 2026 through October of 2028. Now, that's the first scenario. Let's talk about a second scenario, and I think it's very prudent to talk about it today, given that there appears to be a great amount of uncertainty in what Corpus Christi and San Pat's actual charges are going to be in the coming years. So with that, the San Pat rate is about 30 to 40% of an average customer's water bill. So obviously, if they do significant increases, that's going to significantly increase a customer's monthly charge as well. So the idea has been floated that why don't we create a rate structure where the San Pat rate is a separate charge. And so when San Pat increases their rate, we just pass it through to the ratepayers accordingly. And that the base charge and the volumetric rate we charge to our customers reflects only what our actual costs are. So, this chart may be very quickly getting out of date, particularly based on today's conversation. But currently, Sandpat's rate to the city of Rockport is $4.07 per 1,000 gallons. We projected that that rate would go to $4.35, $4.66, and $4.99. We don't have any inside knowledge of what Sandpat is doing. We just assumed about a 7 to 8% annual rate increase in line with historical averages. Now, the pass-through rate that you would charge your customers would not be $4.07 because there is some distribution loss that occurs. In other words, you buy more water from Sandpat than you ultimately is metered at your customer's house. That's standard. You know, it's very common for utilities. As a matter of fact, your water loss rate is no worse than what you typically see. In my experience, any city that has a water loss rate of, say, 20% or less is pretty much in line with normality. So what we would assume, or what we would recommend, is you take the Sandpat rate and you increase it by 10% to cover water loss. So if Sandpat charges you $4.07, you establish a pass-through rate of $4.48. If Sandpat raises their rate to $4.35, your pass-through rate becomes $4.79, and so on and so forth. So what would this mean? This would mean that it would not affect your base charge at all, but it would affect your volumetric rate. You see, right now, your volumetric rate for 1 to 10,000 gallons is $6.47. It goes to $7.58 for 10,000 to 15,000 gallons, and it goes to $9.61 for above 15,000 gallons per 1,000 gallons. So, under this methodology, you would establish a pass-through rate from Sandpat of $4.48. You would decrease the volumetric rate for 1,500 to 10,000 gallons to $2.40. You would decrease the rate from 10,000 to 15,000 gallons to $3.60, and you would decrease the rate for 15,000 gallons and above to $4.68. And then, in the future years, your Sandpat rate would go up, and your volumetric rate would go up, which would reflect your costs. Now, the Sandpat rate is just a projected rate. Ultimately, the rate would be whatever Sandpat's rate is to you plus 10%. So, that accomplishes several things. One, it protects you as a city in case the rate increase from Sandpat is higher than what you anticipated it would be. Also, it sends a message to your ratepayers of what the true cost of the supply of water is going to be in future years. If this area does pursue desalination, for example, the Sandpat rate is going to get a lot higher. In my opinion, it's a worthy investment because, as I said earlier, desalination is the future of water in Texas in the 21st century. And the sooner we recognize that as a community, the better off I think we will all be. But that comes at a higher cost. And ratepayers need to understand that that cost is going to be higher. But when you think about it, even if the rate from Sandpat goes up to $10 a 1,000 gallons, if you use 5,000 gallons a month, that's, right now it's $4, it would be a $6 increase to $10. For 5,000 gallons, that's $30 a month. Would you pay $30 a month more for water in exchange for a guarantee that you will never run out of that water? I would. And I think a lot of other people need to understand that too. Heck, I just got my cable TV bill. It was $150. If I'm going to pay $150 for cable TV, I'm going to pay $30. I'm going to pay $30 to guarantee my water supply for the rest of my life. So I think that's the perspective we all need to keep when it comes to these cost increases. But the true advantage of this alternative is that it gives ratepayers that information, and it gives you as council members that information as well. Yes?
Can I interject or
Of
ask
course.
a question? Does this alternative we had a $50 million capital project, we cut it
Right.
down to 25.
Right.
Does this alternative B maintain that 25
Yes, it
million?
does.
Okay.
Because the base charge and the volume rate per 1,000 gallons reflects all of the city of Rockport's costs. The pass-through rate reflects all of Sandpat's costs. So you have carved those rates out. Yes, sir.
Dan, real quick, on the pass-through rate, we have sand patch rate plus 10%. What is it, what is that 10%? Is that just
It covers water loss because
water? Oh, gotcha.
if a customer buys 10,000 gallons of water from you, you're buying 11,000 gallons of water from Sandpat because about 1,000 gallons of it is lost in transmission.
That's what you're talking about, the water loss.
Right.
Got it. All right, thank you, sorry.
And I just checked with the guys, we have about a 12 to 15% water loss. So, not bad at all.
Yeah, and that's something to, and you monitor that in the future. I mean, water loss is a fact of life. You know, it happens. No system is perfect. And so if your water loss trends up in future years, you might want to consider adjusting that 10% multiplier. So, you know, that gives you some flexibility as well. But that is a true benefit. Yes, sir.
If it's okay to continue asking questions before I forget.
Absolutely.
And this question may be for the gentleman behind you as well, and Vanessa's team. If we were to choose alternative B that has the pass-through on it, and what have you, how often can we, and maybe a guess at this point, how often do they adjust our rate to us? Because I don't want to see you guys every month have to recalculate something and what have you. Is it going to be a burden to your team, or is it a once a year thing that you guys would do?
Yeah, it's
Usually, or usually once per
In
year.
normal
We-
circumstances.
Contractually, we could do a mid-year, but
Okay.
it's not ever our intent. We try to avoid that. We keep some reserves to be able to.
So if we went with alternative B, it wouldn't be cumbersome for you guys. You could accommodate
We're
it.
gonna be changing the rates anyway.
Okay.
Pass-through is just a part of that.
But if we went with alternative A, we would set it and forget it for 12 months or
Right.
24 months. But alternative B makes you guys do this little adjustment every once in a while.
However, alternative A puts us in a position where we may, like we are now, supplement the water rates either with our fund balance or our general fund.
Or we'll be back here again
Right.
doing this again.
Alternative B, which I'll just be honest, is mine and Robbie's preference, and I think maybe Brian has an opinion, but, that way it protects us from what Sandpat is doing.
Yeah.
You know, they can go crazy over there, and our funds will remain steady.
Yeah, and we're allowed to, I know you've told us before, whatever we end up adopting is 36 months, is 3 years, is that what we?
That is your prerogative. You're not obligated to do that.
Okay.
You could just do one adjustment, and you may decide things are so uncertain right now that you just want to reevaluate it every year.
Okay.
At the same time, you could do a 3-year plan and still reevaluate it every year. Just because you have a 3-year plan in place, you can go back and adjust that rate plan anytime you want.
Well, almost like what we're doing now, because
Kinda like, yeah.
we're not at the end of our current rate plan, it's just everything's going haywire. And- Okay, well, thank you, I want to make sure that wasn't burdensome for the team here.
Sure. And, oh, go ahead.
And if I may, yes, it's because the council approved a 5-year is what we had done before. So we're still in the middle of that. So this would override that ordinance.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
And the new rate, your new rate generally goes into effect October 1st, right?
January 1st.
January 1st. So you would adjust the pass-through rate when they adjust their rate to you. So your rate to your customers would go up in October of each year, but you may adjust the pass-through rate in January when they change their rate. So, again, it sounds more complicated than it is, because it's literally nothing more than taking their rate and multiplying it by 10%. So,
We probably would hold off and align it and just do one a year.
yeah, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as the impact on your ratepayers is concerned, it's really kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Because they're either paying the Sandpat rate as a separate charge, or they're paying the Sandpat rate as part of their overall rate. So, if things go according to plan, and we all know that things always go according to plan, then they would be paying the same under either alternative. You see, you're still looking at 6.5% rate increases. There's one little caveat, though, and that is that if you choose alternative 1, you are building the Sandpat rate into your volumetric rate.
You said alternative.
I'm sorry, alternative A.
Yeah, okay.
If you went with alternative A, you're building the Sandpat rate into your volumetric rate. So in essence, what it means is that your higher end users are paying a little more of the sand charges than they would be under alternative B. Because under alternative B, everybody pays a flat $4.48 per 1,000 gallons for every 1,000 gallon they use. Now, in terms of the true impact, it's pretty nominal, because this right here is the comparison between, for a 5,000 gallon user, between alternative A and alternative B. As you can see, it's about $1 higher under alternative B than it is under alternative A. But I did feel obligated to inform you of that. It's a little higher than where we projected it would be back in 2023, before the Lord decided to turn off the rain spigot. But under alternative A and alternative B, it's virtually the same. So, with that in mind, once again, it is, either alternative is acceptable, reasonable, and fair. The most fair, just, and reasonable rate plan is the one that you all decide is the most fair, just, and reasonable rate plan. So you have wide discretion to choose either alternative A or alternative B, whichever one you think is in your best interest. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you have at this time.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very informative.
So from that, we staff are asking for direction from y'all. What is your pleasure for us to either pursue, not pursue? What do you want from us now?
Based on the 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 presentations that we've had Dan do for us now in the recent history,
This is 3.
I know. The Plan B appears to me to be the easier one for both staff and residents to see, and I think it's easier based on the unknowns with our future, with potential water rate increases from Corpus to San Pat to us. That pass-through fee appears to be easier for us to absorb doing option B.
And it prevents us from coming back here and doing this again. If something goes haywire again, it incorporates that haywire in there, just because this is what it's gonna be.
Or keeps us from having to subsidize for a period of time that rate increase.
So that's the situation we're in now. Our initial study projected, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, a 3% increase by San Pat year over year. And the actual first year increase was 7%, and the second year was 8%, or vice versa. So we're subsidizing the difference in that increase of what we projected. And that's why we wanted to come through with the pass-through, because again, it's unknown. If Corpus goes up to $10, that's gonna come to us. And so the other benefit of this is customers can see on their bill very clearly what the cost of the water they are buying is and what the cost to process and distribute it is. And I don't read my water bill. I'll be honest. If it goes up significantly, I rant and rave and say what happened, and then it usually goes back down. And a lot of people don't read their water bill. They just look at the whole thing and say, "Oh, my bill went up," and they don't care if it's gas or water or whatever. But this will at least give them an opportunity to basically look at an itemized statement.
I think a Plan B, like they said, it's a simpler thing, and we can put it on a bill, we can explain it easier, and also justify it easier. I think the public will understand that. It's easier to sell that to the public than something they don't understand.
No, this is wishful thinking, holy cow. But with the ability to track these increases from San Pat, and if we choose Plan B, and they're spelled out easy to see, if something happens and it rains and all kinds of good things happen, and there isn't a rate increase for some time, is it ever allowed to go back down? I don't know that it ever.
I mean, if we do a pass-through, if San Pat very generously drops our water rate, which, might happen, it's a pass-through.
Well, that was my question.
If they're charged to it, we have to buy the water. So if the price of the water goes down, then the cost to the customer goes down.
Oh, I was gonna say, if we're at 448 or whatever it is now, or that's a projected number. Something happens and it goes down, the citizens are protected again, it'll follow you. It doesn't only go up, it can go down, if it happens.
Can.
I'm just grasping for, I'm looking for some green there somewhere, guys. I just wanna make sure that protection was there.
I say I'm okay with you guys presenting the pass-through rate, but I am still hard pressed not to do the 2 rate increases until we have more tangible information on where we're gonna get our water from. I can see October when we have that, then when they come to us and say, hey, this is how much we're gonna charge, or if we go to another alternative way to go to our customers, like, well, this is what we're gonna have to charge. And this is just me personally, but I wouldn't want to see the 2 rate increases right now until we have more information. I'm okay with the pass-through coming to be presented to us and coming to council for future, but that's just where my head would be sitting at.
So I think we're considering these 2 here, but no matter where we go, it's not gonna change till October anyway, is that correct?
Well, this presents an immediate increase.
Okay.
So that we stop the subsidy from, right now we're doing from fund balance, right?
Okay,
So we stop the subsidy from our fund balance. That's what this is. And then going forward, the first rate increase puts us on track to cover what we've already, to catch up.
okay.
Catch up.
So it just holds our own till
So-
October.
And Councilmember Hattman, I understand, this is a little bit separate from the availability of water. This is preserving our system and, maybe you could explain it better. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're using your fund balance right now to support your water fund because your costs have increased at a greater rate than what was anticipated. And so that is the reason why we're asking for a interim supplemental adjustment in April, and then another adjustment in October. So that catches you up.
I completely understand that. I think, I completely understand why you're asking it. I'm just coming from me to be able to explain that to citizens. Hey, I'm gonna give you 2 rate increases this year. They don't care why I'm giving a rate increase. If I don't have an answer for you where the water's coming from, it's gonna subsidize you for the next 2 years to help make sure our projects are controlled and all that stuff. My other question is, like, I know we've had the gas utility was obviously sold. That goes into our fund. Doesn't any of that gonna help with that cost that we've been not gaining from the water not being as much?
So we had in our audit, our net ad increase for the sale of the gas fund. If you would like to take some of that revenue and supplement the water system, you certainly can. That's just gonna be direction to us. That added $4 million to the fund balance, which caught us up on our 180-day reserve and left us with about $1 million extra over the 180. I'm sorry, I'm asking him to.
I believe so. I know.
So-
Good.
If you wanna keep your reserve, you can take that money from the general fund and subsidize up to $1 million on the water.
Yeah, and I'm just going off the audit that we had at the last council meeting, off the gas sale. It sounded like we are in a healthy position right now of where our balance is. And if we can just look at that option and see what our options are, because if we cannot somehow put that in there and not have to do that increase until October, that would make me more comfortable of having that, done than anything. Just options that we can get in front of us.
Okay, is that, y'all want us to pursue pulling that $1 million and putting it into the water fund to see if it will delay the rate increase until October?
I believe that's a reasonable option. I think the public will like it.
Question on that, the proceeds from the gas sale. Our strategic plan, we were trying to get to the 180 days, and we were allocating some ad valorem taxes to that. Would, I'd assume this would offset those potential ad valorem increases, since we're there now at the 180 days.
Right, so your strategic plan had us adding 30 days a year approximately, for the next 5 years. We did that in one swoop. We don't have to continue that way. If you want us to back it down to the plus 30 days over the course of 5 years, we certainly can do that. Our initial thought with the money is, without it having been allocated in the budget year, put it in reserves, catch that fund up, and then see what we have left over to play with.
I'm just
You
wondering,
are welcome to do what you like with it. This is your money and your budget.
just wondering if that would, if offsetting some ad valorem taxes,
Right.
if that could make the rate increase, water rate, our rate increases more palatable.
Well, so if we continue on subsidizing the water, you will dip into your ad valorem taxes to subsidize the water, which means only the citizens are paying the subsidy, not the out of district customers. So to stop the bleeding and to get your fund balance healthy are really good ideas. So if you can take that million and offset it, you need to. Because, well, I don't wanna say you need to, if you don't wanna do the rate increase. We need to stop the bleeding, period.
I would just like to have that conversation when that is brought to council. You know, just have that conversation when it's brought to council. I know, obviously in April, you're talking about that's when you would like to bring it, April or May,
I'm sorry, what,
the rate increase.
this is the,
Well, there's no action today, right?
Right.
Okay. But so when you wanna do an actual increase on the water rate, you have to have an action. So it's gonna be on a different council meeting, correct?
yes.
So when that's brought to us, I would like to have that information. If we brought that $1 billion, we have to still do that rate increase, or we can wait until October. That's all I'm asking. It's not, does that make sense what I'm?
Yes, ma'am.
The hope after we paid off the debt on the gas sale was, Robbie, I remember we were hovering around $1 million, and it looks like we came out there
We came out.
pretty close.
golden.
Okay, so we had that roughly $1 million. What are we dipping in every month right now? What's the bleeding? In other words, does that $1 million buy us? Please tell me it's not 500,000 a month, but how, if we took that million, if we decided to do that, how long would that buy us till October? How much are we bleeding right now per month?
Well, right now, the million has been moved over to the general, it's sitting in the general fund, and it was done to get us so that we could shore it up and get us up to that or over the 180 days. To get us whole.
I'm not gonna ask him to do that.
Yeah,
math
that
on
may
the
be
fly.
some bad math
Like,
to do.
what is our overage every month? What are we subsidizing every month towards the water by not have our rate being set high enough?
And
I'm not
Robbie,
gonna
I don't
ask-
expect you to guess, partner.
I'm not
That's
gonna
not
ask you to
right
do that
there.
math.
Well, the thing to what Vanessa was saying is that you want your utility to be able to hold its own so that it's not having to be subsidized. And right now, it's having to be subsidized. And I'm not gonna tell you exactly what that is, but
But if we could get that,
But we'll take that million and see how far it will get us. And we will bring that information back to you. But that preserves your 180 days. Because we ended up with 4 million from the gas sales, so that preserves your 180 days. The million that we had talked about doing some capital projects with, if we moved it back over to the utility fund, we will bring back a number of how far off that could stave the initial increase. Does that make sense to you?
yes.
Does that make sense to y'all?
yes.
Is that what y'all are asking?
Just the information, yes.
Okay.
Now, and if I may, if we pull that million for the utility, then that's gonna put added pressure on when we start looking at tax rates.
Right.
Is what
Right,
she was
because
saying.
we were using it in our, because it's in the general fund right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you take it out, you reduce your general fund balance by that $1 million.
There's one other thing I feel obligated to mention, and that is that if you forego an increase in April, you would have to make the increase in October higher, because it's a cascading effect. The rates are designed for an 8% adjustment in wastewater in April, and then another 8% adjustment in October. So if you don't do the 8% adjustment in April, you'd have to do a higher adjustment in October to catch up. So that is one factor that you would have to consider if you adjust the long-term rate plan to forego an adjustment in April.
And where I agree with Councilman Hattman's idea that, that would be an awful nice thing to be able to do for the residents, to buy them some time here. It sounds like we may, if we tried to help the folks that are currently paying water bills, cause not every resident in the city of Rockport gets water. It's about half of them, I guess, is where it is. We could, if we spent that money on the folks with water bills right now to help them for 6 months, we're very well could cost all the taxpayers in our rate down the road, because that money's got to come from somewhere. Does that make sense? What I'm thinking there. So if we took those dollars and spent them to help the water payers right now, which I think is a good idea, it sounds nice to do that, we may end up costing ourselves by September with our tax rate. It's because the money's got to come from somewhere.
Where are you gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
Are you gonna pay for it from the bill?
Yeah,
and the
do you
user?
spread it over everybody on the tax rate, or do you just?
We also need to compare what's gonna make the greatest difference in impact for our tax customers. Like
Understand what you're saying.
yeah, where are they gonna save the most? You know, is the pass-through rate cheaper over the course of the year that the increase in tax is gonna use to subsidize? So we need a lot of more information before we make any decision.
Yes, and I know if we pull $1 million out, what does it do to your tax rate? If we put $1 million in, what does it do to your water rate? Yes, got it.
And the rate increases then are going to be more out of line with what other cities' ratepayers are seeing on the increases. Because right now, they're, as what Dan has set up, those are in line with what other city ratepayers are seeing. Then if we don't do that, then their rates are gonna be higher. And then they're just gonna be higher. They're gonna have to be.
That's something we'll have to look at council meeting in the future when it's an agenda item and
I'd
set
like to.
down for action by the council.
Okay. I
Anything
like the
else?
workshop setting better because the conversation is better.
Yeah.
So when we're
But
pulling
you
this.
don't have the information to present to us today unless we have.
No, I'm just saying maybe we can do
materials.
another workshop between now and then so we can flesh it out further after we bring you information back. So we have something more solid for council. That's all I'm saying is the workshop setting seems to be easier to have these discussions and ask us to come back with more information. Cause I'm pretty certain when we present you something else, it's gonna bring up more questions and we're gonna need to go back and forth. So I'd like to do another, even if it's just a mini workshop, to kind of solidify where we're headed before I do a council action item, if that's okay with y'all. Okay.
Yeah, that way when it comes to council, it's been chewed through and we know exactly where.
Yeah, I mean, I might do a couple hours in the evening if that works for everybody or whatever, but just in a workshop setting so we can flesh it out more. Okay, very good. Great direction, great discussion.
Anything else?
Well, I think you used the word flush it out when we're talking about water.
I didn't say flush, I said flesh, but whatever. I could have said so we can see what's coming down the pipe.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else,
I've got one more water question if I can.
go right ahead.
Workshop, you do whatever you want.
We've talked about water supply, we've talked about the potential for looking at some water rate adjustments and what have you. Vanessa, how does this figure into the Freeze and Nichols water study that we commissioned? Is it covering a lot of this, or it's traveling along the same pathway?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of independent because Freeze and Nichols is how can we get our own supply? And we, right now, our whole wagon is hooked to Corpus. And so right now, we're on that track. Freeze and Nichols is looking on the other track. So, they're on the Oregon Trail and we're on the Wyoming Trail. And we're gonna stick with the Wyoming Trail until they bring us a solid Oregon Trail.
And we're still thinking midsummer-ish?
Yes, yes.
Good deal.
I will also say, Friday, when we go to Alice, that is completely off both trails. That is us going rogue, looking at our own thing and just seeing what someone else is doing. A lot more information there. Y'all are gonna have a million more questions. Great water discussion.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Okay, do you want a break or do you wanna keep going?
Go right ahead.
All right, so the next thing I have, what time is it?
3:19.
We have just a few minutes. I want to revisit your 2025 strategic plan. We only have until 4 o'clock for this, so, I'll walk through them and see if we wanna change anything, if we wanna only change the date. Sorry, I should have handed those out. So let's just start with your mission and vision. Y'all go ahead and look through that. I'll read it, I guess. Our mission is to build a thriving community with a focus on growth, health, safety, and fiscal responsibility. We are committed to effect leadership and create a vibrant, sustainable city that preserves the charm of the Texas coast while ensuring a high-quality life now and for generations to come. Is everybody still comfortable with that?
I think it still works.
I think it's still very effective, but, you know, it's you guys. Okay?
Sounds reasonable.
Vision. To be resilient and forward-thinking coastal community where infrastructure, safety, economic opportunity, and public service come together to support smart growth, protect our charm, and enhance the quality of life for all who call Rockport home and those who visit us. So like our vision? I think it's great. Okay, values, integrity, accountability, inclusivity, open-mindedness, and consistency. What do we think about our values? Are we meeting those? Are there ones we need to add? Are there ones we need to replace? Do we like those as our solid value? Okay, we'll keep moving. Infrastructure. So allocate impact fees annually based on collections and CIP. We haven't allocated any because we haven't collected enough to spend, basically. But they're coming in, we're working on it, and we're keeping an eye on it. And as soon as there's something, we'll put it in line with the CIP and move forward. Full fee study. We have not funded that. If we want to this year, I'll want you guys to vote on that, if you wanna pull that in. We have done some fee studies in, billing and collections. We still have a couple of others to go. Planning and development being the big one. Yes, sir.
Quick question on impact fees. And I know you probably went over this. Remind me, we had the new impact fees approved last year that were a substantial jump because we hadn't looked at them in many years. Those are now being collected, so when people are.
That's right.
Okay, so that money's, it's new money, but it's just coming in. And we are seeing those larger impact fees coming into the accounts.
Yes.
Okay.
And they have their own account, so they are not commingled with anything.
Yep, they're for CIPs.
And remember, in our impact fee study, the infrastructure that's set out there was chosen to serve the underserved areas. So that was kind of our goal / mission with the impact fees. So basically our annexed with no infrastructure. So keep that in mind as you go through. Full fee study, street evaluation. We did a little bit of this. If you'll remember, you funded street improvements last year. We did not do a full evaluation of all the streets. We're only evaluating the streets that you funded. So if we want to go further next year, that'll be part of our next talk. Is there anything that you wanna add or take away from infrastructure? Do we wanna continue on the path?
Yes.
I think it's good. I mean, we're rolling on it, we're doing it, but there's more to be done. So I don't think adding anything right now is real imperative.
Your fee study, the full fee study, are you gonna bring that to us?
I would like to include the, planning and development fee study in this year's budget.
Okay, I think it's prudent, we haven't touched that in a while.
It's the same as the water. We gotta cover our cost. I know it's not a profit and loss business, but we're still running a business. And so, since we've done this one, I think that's the next most important to do. We've also started using some third-party inspections, and those fees need to be an exact pass-through, so we're not subsidizing those fees. So, if you'll make a note, this is her second day on the job, and if those of you that don't know Amanda, she used to work for us, she's back, she's our new planning director, and today is day 2 for her, so.
I know I was like, wait, is it a couple of years ago? So welcome back. Nice to see you again.
So you're ready for your presentation today?
Yeah, she'll be up here next, so, we're gonna give her a break, but I am gonna ask you to put that on your to-do list, and we'll certainly help you with that. So you will see that, whether or not you choose to fund it is gonna be up to you. Okay, and then finance, we did talk about that 180-day reserves. I know y'all, set out a plan here, it's a really good plan. But the influx of the gas system gave us a really good opportunity to beef that up. We've had some really easy hurricane seasons, and I am not one to tempt fate. The next 5 years may be great. The next year may be catastrophic. I think, to me, from my management standpoint, getting that reserves in shape was very critical for the times that we live in. And I feel like we were given a gift, or very blessed to have that influx. Now, that's my opinion, that's what I believe. If you guys want us to back it down, last year we didn't add 30 days, we added 28, I believe.
Now, year 1, is that 2025 or 26?
Year 1 is the one we just finished.
Okay.
And so we would be on year 2 of this.
All right, so by the end of 2026, we want to be at 180 plus 30. Is that our
No,
goal?
180 total. Our goal is 180.
Okay.
And this 30-day increments was to get us at 180 days in 5 years. The gas sale got us at 180 days in one check. So, in my mind, unless you tell me different, I think we remove this from the plan and make it maintain 180-day reserves going forward.
But we're not going beyond 180. We
No,
don't.
sir, there's no,
Okay. No.
that's our finance policy, so.
Okay.
I think it's in the charter too, I could be wrong. I think the 180 days is in the charter, so, so I think we remove the step plan,
Yep.
change it to maintain that, and we're not gonna dip into it until there's something catastrophic, that needs to be taken care of.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Because we got there with, like you said, one check, and we don't have to burden the property owners, the ad valorem taxes for the next 5 years with trying to get there.
Right. Optimize available resources, explore implementation. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't exactly remember what that discussion was, and I probably should have worded it better. So maybe, if someone has a better memory than me or took better notes,
Would it happen to, under vision breakdown, column 2, sales tax increase down the bottom? Is there any chance that it was some of those other, remember we had talked about some additional revenue opportunities if we wanted to pursue them? What, or maybe.
okay, grants. So I can tell you that,
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'll make better wording on that it's
It's like
grants.
grant opportunities and stuff to reduce our overall financial.
In the past year, we put Kimberly on grants, and if y'all know Kimberly, yearly grants are being covered. So, we'll make that better wording so we know what it is next year, and I think we continue on that path. Add 3+ revenue sources a year. We definitely added 3 revenue sources this year. The main one being in the Parks Department, and she's left, and they're small, but she's adding revenue producing events. I'm sorry?
I thought my phone's not showing me anything, but it's talking to me.
Nevertheless, we did start taking back wastewater treatment, porta-can dumps today. That'll be a revenue source, so we can continue on that. Some of them are gonna be big, some of them are gonna be tiny, but hopefully we can always do something different to add. In the Parks Department, things are gonna fall off and things are gonna come in, but,
Every little bit helps.
every little bit helps, and, it makes us continually think, and so I think it's a good thing. Does anybody wanna add anything to the finance element here?
I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Nothing about Robbie?
I don't want to say Robbie individually. I think finance is doing a pretty good job.
Thank you.
In spite of him?
With him being there.
Thank you.
I'm teasing. Robbie's doing a good job.
See Shelley?
He,
You mean his team is doing great?
With Robbie being there,
I do wanna say, if we look back to when I came on, which I've been here a little over 3 years. You 3 guys have been here my whole term. We've come a long, long way. We were 5 million in the hole. We were not properly doing our adjustments between funds that we should have to cover costs. Our audit was not caught up. We weren't doing, asset roll forwards. Fixed asset roll forward. There's a lot of stuff that wasn't being done, and, Robbie and his team have really come in here and straightened out a lot of stuff. And, the fact that we got a really good audit says a lot about what they've done, because we all know where we came from. So, I just need to take a minute to say, I give Robbie a lot of crap, but I'm really proud of that team. They do a great job, so, anyway, enough. Recreational opportunities, expand and diversify sports tourism opportunities. You will see a couple of those things presented in this year's budget. I think we, in our first work session, said that we wanted to, focus kind of on those parks things or the recreational activities. In that time frame, the pickleballers have shown up. So we are gonna bring some pickleball court costs, we're gonna bring some playscape costs to you. We are looking at a public-private partnership. I've asked Jeff actually to explore that, and I've also asked, Travis James, the guy that's doing our tours, to help us explore a P3. Hopefully we can bring something kind of neat. So I would like to leave that and reserve it and bring it to you guys when we've kind of fleshed it out, if y'all don't mind. So, what else would you like anything to take off of, anything to add?
I think that's good, 'cause I know we wanted to focus more on parks this year.
Looks good.
Let's do economic development, infrastructure plan, accessibility, evaluate platforms, and execute. There you go, your grants, again. Prioritize types of business and identify and designate state investment area prioritize matrix. I'm gonna tell you, we have not pursued any of these things. I know that Jeff's working on some of these things with EDC. And I'll tell you straightforward that that's his area and that's really not ours. And I think our best approach here is to ask him for what we need and then support his efforts. So,
I agree. I think it's not something we should take, or we don't need to take on if they're doing it, if the Ramsey County Partnership is doing it already. Let them do it, present to us what their findings are.
And what their support levels need to be from us, and
Yeah,
that's our job.
Support them along the way.
we do provide them funding every year. It's not anything huge, but we do provide some funding, so I think that they would be responsive to what we requested, but then they may come back and say, all right, we need a little more to
Well, I think any success they have would be our success as well.
100% agree. So I think these are general enough to let Jeff and the EDC do their work while still meeting the objectives that we have set out.
Yep.
So, okay, everybody good there? Customer service. Internal turnover, retention, satisfaction, improvement every year. We have had improvement this year. Can't tell you our turnover rate. Off the top of your head.
Right now, I think we're about
2%. 2%. I'll take 2% all day, because we get people in here that just need a job, need to check the box, they don't fit, they don't work. 2% is a pretty good turnover.
Casey, are you including that number? Do you include yourself in this?
Yeah. Casey is leaving us at the end of the month. Apparently, she wants to move to another state and do something else, but whatever. I can't imagine that there's anything better than what we're doing right here, but apparently there is. So, we're gonna miss Casey, but she's also helping us find her replacement, so that's gonna be helpful as well. Expand online customer service. We are working in, planning and building and development to expand their outward-facing online capabilities, but it's a process, because we have two competing programs, we own both, some like one, some like the other. We've gotta marry it, and it's gonna take some time. So, I know we've done that. I think that's about all we've done with the online customer service. I am about to go to an AI convention, and one of their topics is developing an AI, I don't wanna say a chatbot, but an interactive AI website feature. So I look forward to looking into that and seeing how much that would cost, because apparently a lot of cities have had really good success. Midland,
The one you need to look at is the city of Abilene, and it's Emma.
Abilene has Emma, I've forgotten Midland's name,
I don't-
Dallas has a big one,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of, hi. There's a lot of cities adding that AI capability to their websites, so I'm going off to explore that. Hopefully I'll bring something back.
I was gonna share, we also, people can now pay their bill via, utility bills via text.
Yep.
We're just gonna add that in.
Yeah. Forgot about that, so pay your utility bill via text. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to interact with us. Consistent customer service, we've been preaching that for a year now. I think that we've always had good customer service, but I think we've gone leaps and bounds in starting to provide excellent customer service. And we really are becoming a high-performing team, and I'm really proud of the group. And if there's pitfalls or lacking areas that you've recognized or that you've been told about, we need to know, because we're here to fix them. And we have a group of dedicated professionals that want to continue with customer service. I think our police department still has a 4-star rating. 5. 4.65. Ooh, you slipped. But we really are doing that. We're doing lots of training. We're getting people out of the office to see what other cities are doing, and to see how we can do it better. So, is there anything you would like to add or reduce here?
I think the fire department's customer service is a 6 out of 5, probably.
Fire department?
I'm just guessing.
Never mind.
I'm sorry, y'all, it is not Abilene, it's Amarillo.
Amarillo.
Emma from Amarillo.
Emma. We're gonna have Rocky from Rockport.
That'd be cute.
He's gonna be a crab. Okay, we have health and safety, and you have on here healthcare tax use. You guys asked me to look into, we give 1 cent of our sales tax to the county for health services. So I haven't been able to gather where all the money goes, but I've been dipping into the service. We had thought it was initially just mosquito spraying, right? We talked a lot about that. But they have some healthcare services, I think some elder services. You're looking at me like, do they? So they're providing actual healthcare, so I haven't fully gotten into that, and I would like to continue to explore it, if that's okay with you guys. I can't remember the lady's name over there. I'll figure it out. No, not Patricia, but Patricia heads up the meeting that, the county is at, so I'll figure it out. We only found out the money that we send to the mosquito spraying was like $100,000 or less. Anyway, it didn't account for the whole amount of the sales tax that we're sending, but we're working on it, we're getting there. Preserve and enhance natural resources, plant native plants in strategic areas. One of the initiatives we've done is we worked with Charlie Belair for him to do native plantings in strategic areas to help drainage and things that are conducive to growing in our public spaces. So that, that's a good one, and it's not a check it off, it's a continue to go. Because also as new developments are coming in, we're allowing xeriscaping instead of making them put in the full landscape plan. As much as we'd love for them to plant the trees, there's no need to plant them to let them die, so we're allowing that xeriscaping, which then does go into our new planting philosophy. We are in a semi-arid desert, and it doesn't make sense for us to try to grow things that aren't intended to be here, so.
Do you think we should redo that section to categorize it, because those seem like kind of line item underneath what should be a category there?
Tell me again.
So like plant native plants in strategic areas, it seems like a line item to a category that should be within that. Like if you wanted focus area, like focus on the bay, you know,
Okay.
focus on plant irrigate, whatever it may be, right? And then those would be line items underneath those sections, like categories. Does that?
Okay.
It just seems a little bit like we're presenting it like a check off on that
Yeah.
versus what you could build within those subcategories.
I understand. So what I'm hearing is, why don't for this budget year, we bring back maybe Charlie's plan and show what he's focusing on, and then see what areas we can focus on. I mean, we're gonna focus on, I can tell you, probably downtown and Memorial Park, because those are the two areas we control. But to bring a plan, I'm with you on that. Okay.
Is that something the tree committee people can work with us on? Because they got some funding there that they have, don't they? Would they be willing to support us on some tree planting projects?
Well, we don't wanna plant trees,
Yeah, they can
We
only
don't-
plant trees.
so we are not planting trees.
You gotta water them. Well, but in areas where there is, well, I mean, we're just not gonna plant any more trees in Rockport, is that where we are?
Until we can have water, because as soon as they
Until-
plant them, they die.
If I
No,
ask
I'm
you
not-
to.
You don't wanna put them somewhere they're gonna die, that makes sense, but
If I ask you to replace oaks that you've removed, then you have to water them until they're established. And that is not, I have a rule right now that says you can't water your landscape, so I'm contradicting myself. So the best, in my opinion, is remove them, pay your fee. When we have water, then the tree committee has money to go and plant those trees in public areas.
we're just gonna save the money until the drought's over. which is-
Absolutely,
okay.
or at least until it lets up and we can water what
With
we
some,
put in
with
the
some kind
ground.
of future intent of planting some trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we're not never gonna plant trees again, unless we, go dry, but
Yeah.
we just don't wanna contradict what we're trying to tell our citizens.
Is possible.
Yeah.
What do we, I understand what you want on that, we'll work on it, I'll bring it back to you. I'm gonna leave these as is, knowing that there's a follow-up plan coming, just like there is on some of these others, if that's okay. Okay. Vision breakdown. What time is it? Okay, y'all got 15 more minutes of me. And y'all are gonna wanna break before you start hot tax, I guarantee it. Okay, vision breakdown, streets, drainage, Austin Street, TERS. So we have engaged half, who did the original downtown plan, to come in and do some public input, and then some engineering, if we have enough money to get to engineering to redo Austin Street. So we're working on that directive, it's just going slow. I don't know if y'all saw me in the last few months, I've had a collar on my neck. But they have been engaged. The TERS, we are I'm gonna say this far from getting an agreement with the county. There's been some back and forth and some changes in philosophy over there. But, we're working really well together and I think we'll have our ILA done fairly soon. So, slower process than I wanted, but, some of those things are out of our control. We don't control the other governing bodies, so. Enterprise Street, Ryan is having that engineered right now. Customer service in and out, we've already talked about that we're working on it. Country Club drainage, Ryan has engaged, where'd he go? JSA to engineer that. I believe he's gonna be at their homeowners meeting on Saturday to tell them how it's going, so, that'll be a good plan. Serve underserved areas, that was water and sewer, and just like I talked about, our CIP plan for the impact fees is designed to do that. That's gonna be a slow process. That fund has to build up some money through growth. But it's on the radar and we're still moving forward. Secondary water source, we'll talk about that Friday. Build reserves to 180 days. Yeah, we're there. Sales tax increase, our sales tax is up 6% year over year right now.
That sounds right.
About 6%.
Yes.
I sent out, I didn't do anything. Diane sent out the financials yesterday?
I don't think we got it.
Okay, we'll get those financials in there, but I believe that it is 6% year over year on our sales tax increase, and our hot tax is up 42 or 52?
No, it's 52.
52% year over year.
And that's predominantly from the STR work or just?
That and, our new advertising efforts, yeah.
And they did collect some back, I have to give Judy credit.
Some
for
back
that, so
taxes, yeah, Judy's
she
been
did collect.
hustling and,
Judy's got some from 2024.
yeah, Judy's hustling up some back taxes too, so,
That's an amazing amount, that's great.
yeah, we're proud of her.
52% increase?
Huh?
52.
Yeah, year over year. Encourage higher level business, we've already talked about leaving that to Mr. Shostrom. Appropriately allocate hot funds, you're gonna love the next one if that's on here. Roadway safety, high traffic, high fatality sidewalk transportation plans. We haven't worked on that very much, but every day that I drive down Pearl Street and or every night that there's a guy walking in black pants and a black hoodie over his head, I think that we need sidewalks there. We did apply for 1 or 2 grants to get some sidewalks there. We were not selected. So it's not off of the radar, but it's just not moving quickly. But we need sidewalks down Pearl. We really do. It is, y'all know. Healthcare, we've talked about that. Vanessa needs to work on that. Interagency cohesion, I think that from the time I arrived to today, we have much better interagency cohesion. I don't know that we'll ever all be in lockstep doing the same thing because sometimes we just have conflicting values and goals. But we've worked with the NAB district, we worked out an agreement with them. We are working with them on the TERS. We are looking into getting some more hot taxes back to do some beach cleanup, to help them out. We're working with the Save Little Bay, the new, that's not their name. Restore Little Bay group, new group has come in. We're working very well with them to try to meet the navigation district goals. I think we're working very well with the county. There's not a lot of interagency crossover, but where it does, we handle it well. And staff has their counterparts over there that work even better together. So,
I want to give you guys kudos since I've started on council. You guys have made leaps and bounds of how much we have gone to start making those conversations, negotiations, and working together and making sure that we move forward for everyone. So thank you. I do want to say thank you.
I think we're working hard at it and we're doing good. And they're working at it. So, it's, I'm not gonna say everybody's on the same page, but we're at least in the same book, and that's great. Enhanced resources, I think that's your grant and money security. We've talked about those things already. What do we wanna take off and add on the vision breakdown?
On the sidewalk, the roadway safety, if it can't be grant funded, I mean, something we can look at in our general fund, or we got an extra $1 million from the gas sale. We
Yeah.
truly, look at funding some of those projects. Sidewalks aren't,
What about using the healthcare tax to fund projects like that?
The healthcare tax that we've currently given to the county,
Mm-hmm.
I think we go talk to them and ask them about it.
Because
Health
it's
and
public
safety.
safety.
I think,
We have to get a little bit more resourceful with that.
I think that's great.
I agree. I mean, it's something that's needed. For a community our size, we don't have a lot of sidewalks.
And it's, the sidewalks along Pearl, I know it has a number that you got, but
65.
it's very much something that could be done in segments.
Yeah.
You know, driveway to driveway, you know, it can be done. It's gonna be costly because the drainage goes to the ditch and now we wanna put a sidewalk in the ditch. So we're talking underground culverts, potentially sidewalk on top of it, which is gonna be costly if that's what we wanna do and do it right. But we can do it in small bites to fund it a variety of ways.
Yeah, I would like to see the healthcare tax. I mean,
Got it.
just because we have the $1 million, but I mean, this year we have so many CIP projects that we, you know, with our tax dollars from last year that
Yep.
we're doing, I don't think it's gonna be something we're gonna have to do year by year.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think it's a great thing to look into. I know there's a safe route to schools tax that, not tax, grant that we need to look into. Being that that connects with enterprise, that'd be a perfect candidate for that. We'll definitely go for the tech stock grant again. I don't know if Texas Parks and Wildlife funds sidewalks, but, that is a matching grant, but it's a substantial grant. So if they do sidewalks in that, we certainly wanna look into that. So there's opportunities. And if you guys wanna just make that a priority, we'll make it a priority.
I can definitely look at it for sure.
It is in a text out right away. Just to let you know, it's not a city roadway or anything. It is in the city, but
It is text out right
it is
away.
a text out roadway, so just to throw that out.
So we'll go beg them for the money to start with, for their unsafe road.
I like that perspective.
That's what we were trying for.
Right.
They'll probably say,
Making that noise and saying that there is a need to the right, you know, and participate is a great idea.
They constantly ask us for what we need, and we always talk about the intersection.
3036 and bypass is one also.
And I think it's clear that there's no intent to do anything there, so we might as well move their focus into somewhere we can make a difference.
And Chief probably has some data to help you with that conversation about maybe, you know, injuries out in that area or, you know, and what have you from pedestrians. So maybe come up with some,
Statistics to go with it.
yeah, a little bit to
Got it.
chew on. Give you something to roll them up and hit them over the head with.
Okay. Anything to add to the vision breakdown? Okay, you can chew on it till our next work session.
I
but,
think you have a good list.
I'm sorry?
I think it's a good list.
I think y'all did a great job last year, and that it still stands this year is proof of that. So, we'll change the date, make a couple switches, you're good to go. All right. We probably wanna take a break because Shelley and Nanette are gonna rattle your brain with hot taxes.
All right, we'll take 10 minutes, come back at 5 after.
I'm moving to Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Get a card.
Oh, yes, it's a half a cent that goes to the county, I need to correct that. Half a cent. Robbie figured it up for me, and I don't know it off the top of my head. So we have to go to
Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's a 0.5% of sales tax that, I guess it's Salem City County for Health Services.
I'm sore.
Half a percent. Somebody mentioned $100,000 we're spending on mosquito spraying, but
Yes. Yeah, it was good.
I didn't know if you knew, it's no big deal. You've got too many numbers rolling around.
It's like a 3%, but.
2% that we can keep, because it's six
Goes to the state.
No, I did it last year, I did it since I got here, and you told me not to, that you just have to
I was thinking it was half a
So
percent.
they haven't gotten it in the last.
But either way, it might be nice to know.
I'm gonna, huh?
Yeah, listen to that one.
Y'all just got,
Freezer. Yeah.
okay. Next month I'll send it. I have to send it to them blind copy.
I'll get a wacky. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I didn't know who was behind me. I didn't want to turn around and stare.
Once they reply all,
I don't apply all, I try not to.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go find my,
I wanna know when the sandwiches start. I didn't,
Yes.
had no breakfast and no lunch yet. I haven't eaten since.
Here's some
For
Cheetos.
that- No,
They're
no,
great.
no. In that
I got them
case.
out of the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, there's sandwiches.
Have they got here yet?
Yeah, no, well, you gotta make it,
Oh, that's fine. I'm just kidding.
oh, in the kitchen.
There's a difference in energy. So when somebody's like all pumped up and excited, the whole room gets that way, and yeah, we did pretty, was actually on my team.
All right.
I know, talk about.
How many did you get?
Total so far, our team, not
They
the
have
whole
sandwiches.
group, 15. So, thing is that they put in several phone calls, and a lot of that was residual, so that we may get a lot more.
Right.
After the fact.
Rack them that way?
Correct.
You get a jacket or something from upstairs?
I was smart enough today to bring one.
Okay, don't hit it too hard.
How did your membership drive go?
Pretty well.
Here is an intro.
We're still getting some calls in. That made my job a little easier.
Oh, you know what it is? I'm in Leadership Aransas County.
That's why.
And we came to see you again, yes.
Kathleen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so y'all come through and done the tours and stuff like
Yes,
that? Yeah.
exactly. I was like, oh my God, I've seen this lady
Well, I thought you looked
somewhere.
familiar too, and I thought, well, I just know you from maybe coming to some of the meetings
Oh.
here. Yeah.
Oh, this is maybe like my second one.
Oh, okay.
But,
okay. Well, that's where I've seen you either there or
They're
here.
here.
Yeah, but I'm at the Public Safety Center in Dispatch at 911.
Okay, I
Yeah.
remember you. That was so cool.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. We enjoy what we do in there.
Yeah.
Wild and crazy. We have, we have high times and low times and high times and low times as far as
yeah.
traffic and what's going on out in the community and stuff like that.
Spring break, how was that?
You know what? It wasn't bad.
Really?
Like, Worship Fest weekend started spring break. We weren't even busy until a little bit. I mean, we have extra traffic in town with Worship Fest, but we don't. Yeah, so many cops are there. And then the week was dead, and then Friday, we were busy Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we've been steady since, But yeah, but not too bad. But we'll stay kind of steady because we will, because we'll start doing the course this week.
And everybody goes to hit the nail.
I'm glad you're here. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Kathleen.
Kathleen and Lee.
Yes. You said Kathleen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Is something of this place. Big time.
Economic stuff. I'm like, I didn't realize
it's a combination,
Coming up with the three.
rec centers, anything like that, rec centers, I thought HEB would have been a perfect thing. A time ago when it was. 24 hours. You can't go play basketball. Tennis and.
Those that they're technically. It's just like 21, but basically, it's a free-for-all.
Like 21.
2 points when
Yeah.
you put it in, you get a point for the free throw, you can shoot 3 free throws and then.
Same as 21?
Yep.
Yeah. So we play on Monday nights out there.
You ready?
Anyways, there's nothing as far as that.
We need that one.
There's nothing for it to do with that.
Sorry, you feel better?
Good. I have of course.
Where do you go?
RCC and Marvel both.
Inbreeder,
Yeah, no, it's fun. We play on October.
Wise man.
I'll hunt him down the minute.
And you're not paying much at all.
Yep. Hey, how are you?
But we'll do it.
All right.
Well, it was good though. It was good.
No, I.
There's a bottle of water from home connect that came out was all water. Fountain, no, you're fine. It's a good one. I need a walk.
Oh, yeah. Somebody told me a long ago. Mark it out. Got a check. You just walking back in with a check and she came with it. One almost gets out now. I'd like to see. That's where this meeting. Cleanest team is good. I don't know why. It's one of the prettiest cities. Along the water.
Ocean Drive. That is gorgeous.
One of the prettiest drives. Well, you go 2 blocks in.
Oh, I know.
It gets rough.
It's like, yeah. That's the tough part.
Be the Riverwalk.
Yeah. Yep, a lot of potential.
I'll send you anyone else that I hear about, but I mean,
Well, again, my team was gone now.
German bakeries usually
They're resurrected.
That's where everybody was.
Yeah, it usually has a long line.
It did. It had a long waiting line. Is there gonna be some city here besides Cisco? No, there.
Yeah, that's why I kicked it out of power.
Even your own, yeah.
In here.
They're perfectly fine right here. This here has a very place, right?
Good to see you.
How are you? Good.
Good to see you. How are you?
What do you want?
Those last days. He let me know that it was certainly there because when he saw it written down on something, he was gonna be there. I'll go sit.
All right. All right.
It's pretty good. How's it going?
We did.
Right. Good.
It was 65 this morning, 50 this afternoon.
A lot of big competition.
But I've got, I had some big ones, a couple of bigger ones. It's just a big part of it, it's all good. You guys get some bigger.
We did 15.
Yeah.
Did you see the last one that I put in?
I saw you over there with this afternoon.
Where are y'all?
In the rock.
Oh, okay.
one was complete bogus. Yeah. Complete crap. What's the name? Oh, no, email address was so full of it. Gmail.com.
What size is your investment?
Oh, no, the investment was 3,000, but my credit card was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You're just giving him a hard time
Oh,
over
yeah.
there.
So
He makes him do push-ups, so he's gotta get some payback somewhere.
So he,
You the lead guy that came in to let you guys, okay.
so it was kind of comical because he looked at it and he just kind of smiled.
Took him a minute.
And he just smiled. It's like, you left the amount out of this. And I'm like, oh, just 255. And he's like, no, we'll do 3K. And I'm like, oh, go ahead.
Right.
I was like, yeah, go ahead. So he took it over there. And then, like, the ladies was like looking at us like, this is a complete, and they kind of like looked and he's like, they tally down, and I'm like, how did I get a tally on my, I was like, whatever. And so they ended up going, and the lady that was on the line, she's looking at this, she's like, this is nuts, this is crap. And so she ended up writing that down. It's like, Mr. Clean is a liar. So,
This is your nickname over there.
oh, boy,
Yeah, he's like the original. Kathleen, nice to meet you. Kathleen is in my.
Anybody want a coffee?
It was great information, and both this year, but I'll be glad to bring that, it's awesome every time. And then you see, it was great information, Right? I'm not, yeah, no, but I'm like, but that's just me, I know, right, that's just me.
Bob. If I can help, I'm in.
Thanks, ma'am.
You out of here?
Up, easy money? Easy money. Too easy, Drill Sergeant. You got all of it, I hear.
I thought it was half cent.
It is a half cent, and I misstated, and I'm correcting.
It is 10 after, we are back in session.
Forgave you that, but I owe you one. I like not coming over and saying hello.
Hotel occupancy tax discussion.
Mayor, this is the Shelley and Nanette show, so.
Well, actually, first we're gonna start off with the Bill Longley from TML show, and he's on Zoom.
All right.
And
Here.
his camera is pinned, he's on.
Okay, there we go. I see y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Absolutely.
I don't know if y'all want me to jump in and are there other?
We're starting with you.
Go ahead.
We're gonna start with you, so you're good to go.
Okay, sounds great. Great to be with y'all this afternoon, even if it's virtually. I was asked to just give kind of a quick rundown on, what we've called, in the past, the hotel tax two-step, which is the basic test for, how cities can spend, local hotel occupancy tax revenue. And so I will, again, just kind of give a very brief, breakdown of that, and could answer some general questions, but I'll hand it off after I go through some of this stuff. The first place I would start with is that the local hotel occupancy tax is a dedicated tax. So unlike property tax or the general revenue sales tax that y'all get, this is more akin to things like economic development corporation sales taxes or municipal development district sales taxes, street maintenance sales taxes, things that can only be used statutorily in very specific ways. And what's maybe extra unique about this particular tax is that it is a dedicated tax specifically for tourism that must support the hotel industry. So I think that's pretty unusual to have a dedicated tax that's really devised to support one particular industry in your city or across the state, but that's the way that this statute was devised when it was created, and as it's been amended over the years, that's sort of what it provides for. We get questions in our legal department here at TML all the time about proper uses of hotel occupancy taxes. Many cities wish they could use it for police and fire and roads and parks and libraries and everything else. And again, because this is a dedicated tax, maybe unfortunately for those cities, they just can't use it in that particular way and have to use it in accordance with what Chapter 351 of the tax code says. So again, we have, and y'all may have seen it, it's available on our website. We have an article that we run in our magazine every year called the Hotel Tax Two-Step, which goes through this test. Basically, the first step is to see if the expenditure promotes tourism and promotes the hotel and convention industry. So one way of looking at that is, does it attract overnight tourists to the city for an event and to stay in area hotels? The shorthand for this often is called heads and beds. And then if you clear that first initial supporting the convention and tourism and hotel industry hurdle, then you get into, well, does this actually fit within one of the statutory categories in Chapter 351? And so I'll talk about those. But again, start with the heads and beds, at least what we have affectionately referred to as heads and beds component. Does the expenditure help attract overnight tourists to stay in area hotels? I will say that there are technically other ways other than quote unquote heads and beds to promote the tourism and convention and hotel industry. Some cities could make that work if the event in question is part of a convention conference training that's going to be used by hotel guests. So the hotel guests maybe are already there, or possibly the use of hotel facilities, if that's something that y'all have available there, using hotel facilities for an event, that also could be seen as promotion of tourism in the hotel industry that doesn't necessarily call for people staying in the hotel overnight. But again, the most common one is, what is the impact on room night activity at area hotels? And that's the most common, kind of most maybe common sense way of looking at what this component, what this first part of the test is. So there are ways that y'all probably already utilize to measure hotel activity and the impact on the hotel and tourism industry there locally. Oftentimes this is in the application process for funding from the city. Is, you might condition the amount of hot revenue on the impact on the tourism and hotel activity. How is the event in question being sponsored and marketed to tourists? You can get information from the hotel. You can see if there's a room block reserved at a hotel. estimates of room nights sold, those kinds of things to measure activity at local, at your local hotels. So, you know, the real question here that, and we do get these questions from time to time, is the event a local event, or is it, you know, is it a tourism draw that's gonna bring people in? You know, if it's a community-wide event, oftentimes those aren't gonna probably meet the standard of the test, a parade or a picnic or something like that, you know, is gonna be attended by members of the community. May not draw outside tourists, but if you have larger festivals, I know y'all have a particular, arts, you know, emphasis on the arts there and festivals that would draw in, tourists from outside the city that would meet the first standard of this test. So once you get past that, then you can actually look at the statute. So in every analysis, you're looking at, you know, impact on tourism, impact on hotel stays, and then after that, does it actually, is the type of expenditure actually listed in section 351.101 of the tax code? There are 9 categories listed there. Some of the more common ones that y'all are familiar with relate to convention and visitor centers, advertising, promotion of the arts, historical restoration, preservation. So those are the ones you know, you're probably familiar with, but I'll just mention those as sort of a refresher. Just because there are tourists that are coming to area hotels for an event doesn't necessarily mean it's possible to fund the event with hotel taxes if it doesn't fit in the statutory category. So an example of this would be, let's say y'all have there's a professor, local professors, retired professor giving a lecture in Rockport, whatever this guy is talking about, is clearly an attraction. People are coming from all over the country because they want to hear this guy speak about something. So can that sort of thing be funded? Well, the first part of the test is satisfied. People are staying in area hotels. But what about the second? Can you fit this in one of the statutory categories? I mean, maybe you could advertise it, you could promote it, but it's not like this is historical restoration or arts per se. So it might be very difficult to fund something like this. Another example that we have to illustrate this point of paper is one on fireworks. So you could have a fireworks display in Rockport. Are the fireworks just so amazing and magnificent that people travel from all over to stay in hotels to see the display? Usually they're not in most cities, probably don't have a lot of hotel stays, but let's just assume here that they are. Could the city spend local hot funds on the fireworks show? Again, maybe on the advertising it, if it is that kind of a draw, but probably not on the show itself. What we say is it probably can't fit under, say, the arts, I mean, maybe there's something to, like pyrotechnic arts, but I think that's a stretch. I mean, from a legal standpoint, that may be a hard thing to justify. So that gives you an idea of where you might be the first part of the test, but not the second. So let me run through these categories and then I'll let y'all get on with your business. The first one that we see a lot is the convention and visitor centers. This is one of the bigger ones just statewide, and we look at statewide hotel tax reporting. This would include acquisition of sites and the construction, improvement, enlarging, equipping, repairing, operation and maintenance of convention center facilities or visitor information centers. A convention center facility would be a facility that is primarily used to host conventions and meetings. And then you can see the definition in the statute of meetings means gatherings that are attended by tourists or individuals who spend the night at a hotel or attend a meeting at a hotel. So again, you have this primary use component to the convention centers where this center justification where you have to be primarily bringing in out-of-town guests to events at this convention center, civic center, whatever it is. If the primary use of the facility is for local purposes, then arguably it would not fit this definition, under chapter 351. So, is a senior center considered to be a convention center? I'd say probably not, based on the primary use test. What about a city civic center? Probably, I mean, arguably so, and I would say it is if it's primarily used for meetings that are gatherings of city. Private venues typically, or private venues would not qualify here. It's really just convention center facilities that are owned or operated by the city. There's another category on registration of convention delegates that I won't get into. That's probably the least used category. The other big one is advertising, solicitation, and promotions. In the most recent round of hotel tax reporting, there are 26 cities that spent more than $1 million in local hot taxes on this particular category. This would be the things that you probably think of: ads in newspapers, magazines, internet advertising, social media, to attract people to an event or a meeting at a facility in the city. This would not generally apply to just advertising, say, come to Rockport, move to Rockport, it's a great place to raise a family and to live. What we're really talking about is advertising for certain events, like an arts festival or something like that. There are some minimum amounts that if y'all have a 7% hotel occupancy tax, it comes out to roughly 15% per year has to go this particular category. So there's a floor here. Promotion of the arts, I know, is one that y'all are familiar with. Can fund the encouragement, promotion, improvements, and application of the arts, and get into kind of the question of, well, what exactly fits under promotion of the arts? And it can be quite a few different types of expenditures under that category. I know y'all have special legislation that passed that allows you to exceed for most cities, it's a maximum ceiling of 15% expenditure on the arts, and y'all, under certain circumstances, can go up to 30%, which was special legislation from a few years back. So this is a big one. I will point out there was an Attorney General's opinion a few years ago stating that local hot revenue could not be used to construct a performing arts center. That was out of a city just west of Austin. So the funding here should be specific to the arts event itself and not funding a physical structure. Again, that might be something that could be funded as a convention center facility that would use the definition, but it typically would be funded under the arts category. Historical restoration and preservation, this has the 15% maximum level as well. This doesn't just apply to facilities that are owned by the city or by some other public entity, and doesn't only apply to sites that are on a historic registry. So there is some latitude for cities to define what's considered to be historical restoration or preservation. Questions that come up with this are, what about repairs to a museum? Does it, go through the analysis, does that attract overnight guests to the city if you were to repair the museum and make that more hospitable to folks? If so, then I think you could probably make that argument, because make the argument that you're able to attract people, and of course it would fit this category of expenditure. But if you were just repairing, say, an old bank building on Main Street, even if it's historic, you don't get the first part of the test there. People likely aren't coming to the city just to see the old bank building on Main Street. And the last few categories, sporting events. This applies to y'all. It is bracketed, but it applies to all cities and counties with a population of 1 million or less, which y'all would fit that category. This includes expenses that are directly related to a sporting event in which a majority of participants are tourists, increase economic activity at area hotels. So think about big sports tournaments, softball tournament, volleyball tournament, those sorts of things you could use here. There's also a category for sporting facilities. In certain cities, there are roughly 130 cities that are authorized to spend on sporting facilities. I don't think, and someone there can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Rockport is one of those cities in the statute, so I won't spend any time on sports facilities, but I will say if that's something y'all wanted to expand into being able to use your hot funding on, then talk to your legislator about getting added to that section. There's transportation systems, which applies to everybody, allowed to use the funding to like transportation systems that take tourists from hotels to various parts and attractions of the city. So it's really shuttles from hotels to various amusements and not general transit expenditures. So you have that tied into it. So, and then the most recent category addition was signage. So in 2009, the legislature added that category, allowing for signage directing the public to certain sites and attractions that are visited by hotel guests. So I realized that was a real quick overview of the two-part test. If y'all have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll hand it off to Shelley to go through y'all's kind of specific hotel occupancy tax agenda item.
Do y'all have any questions for Mr. Longley? Nope. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Okay, you bet. Good to be with y'all.
Okay, so now Shelley and Nanette have taken the hotel occupancy tax distribution process and made it an actual process. So, do you want me to stop here and ask questions or wait till the end?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, there you go.
So I'll start it. And to start with, I just wanted to let you know on your dais is the PowerPoint presentation along with the proposed application and proposed quick sheet for new process and the scoring sheet that we'll be talking about. So this PowerPoint contains what it says here, review of the hot tax report, changes made in 2026, the purpose of hot tax, our goals for next year, discussions on proposed changes, and I think tonight we are only going to present to you that you have time to take it back and think about it so there you don't have to provide any directions. And then we wanted you to know how we arrived at these changes and proposed deadlines.
The next slide, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, but our hotel tax last month, but was 52% increase. So we did dig into that a little bit to find out where some of that came. I'd love to say it was all advertising and promotion. That would be awesome. But Judy did go and did collect some back taxes all the way to 2024. So that was significant for us.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, changes made in 2026, we ask that y'all approve only required packets the required information go into the city council packets. No PowerPoints, y'all just wanted to see receipts and the report. We only funded nonprofit organizations and city eligible expenses. The CVB would handle all advertisement, no award of administrative fees, and we ask that submission of one completed quarterly report be made. And those were the changes that y'all made last year.
We just heard from Bill Longley, really the definition of hotel taxes for heads and beds. That's number 1 and 2. The two-step process, which I have a copy of that. Happy to send it to all of you. That's been from 2018 on their website. But the purpose of the local hotel occupancy tax is to promote tourism and the convention and hotel industry. Municipalities are authorized to levy a tax on a person who pays for the use of a hotel room and trendy tree houses and tiny houses. And some short-term rentals.
So the goal for 2026, 2027 is enhance our transparency, make it a fairness in funding. We also would like to increase accountability for the public funds, strengthening the report requirements. And I forgot an N on that, but that means documentation. Improve the collection of the data program, evaluate with tracking tourism indicators, promote and collaborate with local businesses and organizations, strengthen alignment with proposed hot funds, support off-season tourism, strengthen the Rockport brand and CVB marketing, ensure all funds and projects. We want to make sure that everything is clearly meets the two-step program. Increase the overnight stays, the heads and beds, and prioritize for events, and prioritize for funding of those events. So to begin the discussions of what Nanette and I had put together, we believe we would like to create a portal on the website for accepting applications. So we put the application out there, they put all their information into this portal. We will also have an avenue for you to hand deliver it if you don't have the means to be able to add it to the portal. Funding considerations will be based on verified hotel stays. Applications will need to use a room block or a promotional code, which would be provided by the tourism manager, or provide documented ticket sales demonstrating the impact that they had. Everyone must sign the guidelines that we put out and attach that to the application. Know all the event sources that the applicant is receiving. So in other words, if they're getting funding from 4 or 5 different places, we need to know about it. Award is tiered down, 3 years funding only. I know we've talked about that for several years, so that we put that in here. Applicants must provide the CVB website and social media page. So, continued. No wayfinding permanent signs. We believe that's a city function to keep everything to look uniform. Quarterly and final reports will be audited by city staff before giving to city council. We do that anyway, but we want y'all to, we want the public to know that that's what's gonna happen. No late applications will be accepted. And we are proposing to pull out the Visitor Center, Art Center, and the Rock. And they will be awarded, like we do the Visitor Center now, in a contract because we have certain obligations to those facilities.
So they're gonna be exempt of that 3-year rule thing you were talking about?
Well, those are, yes, they will.
We have contractual obligations to them.
Yeah.
Or we will.
We will create a city preview team for the applicants. So the applicants would come in and pitch to the tourism manager, the EDC director, a finance employee, and the CVB hotelier. I would be part of it just for clarifications. But they will pitch to them, and they will use that score sheet that y'all have. And then from there, they will present it to the city manager, and she in return presents it to y'all. So it's just another set of eyes looking at everything. The recipients that will be paid in full will be anyone who is awarded $5,000 or less, or the event starts and ends in October. And we're asking for that so that it's clean and clear across the board. Well, I got The focus, this year we'd like to focus on the tourism advertising because that benefits everyone. Building weekday events and sporting tourism. We really want to focus on the Monday through Thursday and trying to get more people here Monday through Thursday with possibly like events at the Rock and then get them to stay overnight. We want to bring everything more in line with the state comptroller and the hotel industry.
So the new application would include a couple of different methods of a maximum calculation, total room nights. If there's not a room block in place, can we issue a promo code for people to use and share that, and keep track of that promo code? Or, some already do ticket sales and zip codes and registrations and surveys, so we could still use that process as well. We would like to encourage everyone to have a room block for these major events so we can track it. That would just be more beneficial for us as well as them. We do use Placer.ai as our new source for reports, and that thanks to the EDC with that. It kind of tells us, it gives us, we put the date range, the location of the event. It will tell us the top 10 zip codes. We can go further than that as well, of where people have visited from. Tells you the week or the day before where they went, after where did they go, kind of those top 10 locations and see who's visited where. Just trying to identify our visitor. Are we advertising in the right places? Austin, San Antonio, Houston, DFW, those kind of things. So for new events, the total new nights will be based on the room blocks or promo code. If an event does not meet the full room block commitment, the shortfall will be taken into consideration, may result in an adjustment to the following year's award, not that year. So we came up with the maximum funding available. It's based on a calculation below. An event may apply for funding for no more than the first 3 years, must submit a new application each year. So 1 year they'd get, the first 3 years they'd get the max amount, the next year they get a lesser amount, the third year they would get the least amount. Hopefully they'd be more on their own and funding their own events. That would really be the goal. So max funding equals the total hotel room nights using one of the two methods above, and using multiplied by an average daily rate. Rockport Hotel's average daily rate, of course, that's going to be seasonal, different in the winter than the summer. Currently, it's about 111. Short-term rentals are a total different calculation of their average daily rate. That can be anywhere from 300 up to 900, depending on the season as well, and the length of stay. Sorry, that was me. So the examples, we just kind of came up with the example to show you that hotel room block calculation or promo code. So you take, if they had 375 total room nights with hotels in our county or Rockport, Fulton, those total room nights with 375, multiply that by the average daily rate and divide that by 7, so that equals their maximum funding for the event. If they don't have a room block or promo code, can they prove with their out-of-town ticket sales, registrations, surveys, zip codes? How many people, what kind of tickets were sold? Do the same thing with the room nights and the average daily rate. So how we came to this, Shelley reached out to, I don't know how many cities, over 15 cities, and I reached out to about 5 different. Somebody similar to our demographic and because it would make sense for us to find out exactly what Dallas and Fort Worth is doing. So to make sure that it does meet the need, obviously for the proposed for the hotel tax, heads and beds, and our measurable benefits for us. This is how we came to that. So obviously the alignment with the purpose of hot funds. The primary purpose of hot tax funding is to promote tourism and increase overnight stays in local lodging establishments, to align further with state requirements and focus on activities that bring visitors to Rockport and generate hotel stays. Really increased accountability for public funds. Additional accountability measures have been incorporated into the program to ensure that funds are used appropriately and that recipients demonstrate measurable outcomes. That just includes a stronger reporting, clearer expectations for them of how we expect the funds to be spent. So I mentioned we reached out to other cities to determine how are they using their hot tax? What is their program? What are people required to submit, and how do they fund them? So we were trying to figure out the best practice and really determine how many people who is our visitor, who's coming, who's staying, outside of, a second home, or even day trippers. So that just helps us to inform how we came to these changes and ensure that we're doing the right thing. We want to improve our transparency, and then the award process, make sure people understand that. And just aims to create a more transparent grant process by establishing the clearer criteria, evaluating the applications, and awarding funding. I want to make sure that the recipients and the applicants understand what that process is like and why and how. We want to see a measurable tourism impact. I think that's one of our big things. To better demonstrate the return on investment, the proposed program places greater emphasis on measurable tourism outcomes, such as ticket sales, room blocks, or documented overnight stays generated by events.
So these deadlines will of course have to change, because tonight we're not asking for direction. So as soon as we get directions, we'll make the application online. We'll do an application orientation. We'll set up a week's worth of timing to do some different presentations, that they would come to that team and present, and that the team has enough time to pull their information together and get it to the city manager. And so then other deadlines that we would have to arrange in the budget schedule would be when the city manager would present to council, and then when the recipients would be notified, and of course, they would have different contracts to sign, and their first quarter check cut. And I reached out to about 70 cities by an email. I think we got back about 30. And so we tracked how they all did. Everybody does a little different. We did find that most of the cities did use the hotel stay, night, and room blocks as their tracking, as well as the Placer.ai. But, Placer.ai is really good. But for example, I have an 830 number. So when I'm being counted as an out-of-town person and I'm here. So that was one thing that we kind of wanted to have a second tier look, to help us with our numbers.
Hi, okay. I do want to know, just what was your thinking of why you need to know all the other event funding sources?
I'm sorry.
What was the thinking behind needing to have the event funding sources from other people? I mean, the additional that they receive from other places.
Why?
You said no all event funding sources of applicant and the amount they are requesting. What was the thinking behind that?
So that is very common that we noticed. Sometimes they're getting funding sources from state for the same thing. Sometimes they're getting funding sources from a city, and then they're getting them from the county. So we are looking at trying to gather all of them. That was when we did our research. That was something when we asked them for their applications and stuff. That was very common request.
Yeah, my only concern is if it's not against, if they're getting, because we're a smaller community, and if they're getting other funding for their event, and if we're gonna base it off, like if you're getting funding from the county, it's not illegal for what they're doing.
No.
We shouldn't really fault them for trying to get funding from other places if we're a smaller community, especially if you're gonna do the 3-year rule.
Right.
I mean, they're
So-
trying to build it, so I understand it.
I would think that it probably was inserted to make sure that there's not overlap. So if someone's not asking for the same money, for the same thing from different people. But I agree with you, we're small enough and there's not enough sources that you know, if we give someone $5,000 for advertising, and someone gets $5,000 from the county for advertising, they're gonna spend $10,000 in advertising.
The other thing is when, I put together your packet, since I've been here, I always pull in that what the county awarded the same place. And so that was another reason why we just said if we put it in the application, I don't always have to go to the county, but we can take that out. We don't have a problem with that.
I don't think it was intended to penalize them at all, but it is, how are you promoting your event? What is your source of funding? If we weren't the source of funding, what is your source of funding? That was the
And I can
goal.
understand that question.
Yeah.
It's just how it
It's
comes
not-
off is if we're gonna base what we're gonna give you because you're getting funding from the county,
No.
then I'm not gonna give you that much.
No.
That's the wording that I just wanna make, if we're gonna do that, let's word it the way you just presented it, so then we can have that done
We
correctly.
can do that.
Would it also, Shelley, when we require them to disclose all manner of funding for their event, maybe there's a security issue to it where if they have private funding from certain groups, you know, we may want to look at the event in total, see if it's something from chief's perspective, maybe security or a safety issue or something like that. I don't know. You know, if
Honestly, if they take our money and they use it how they say they're gonna do, and they report that back to us,
and it puts heads
the
in
rest
beds.
of it is none of our business.
We're good.
So we'll be happy to remove that section.
Sorry. This is just for the events, so like the art center, those other additional ones that we do a little bit differently, that's not affecting them. This is just for the events that are.
Right,
So
so
we're,
the,
just wanna clarify it.
so the visitor center, we already do a contract now. And so we don't require them to know who else they're getting funding from. We pretty much know who they're getting funding from. But we don't require it from them, and we can take it out of theirs too.
She's asking a different question. It's just for events. The people that we have obligations to, we're gonna do a direct contract with them. So the art center, the visitor center, and the Rock, those just will be straight contracted amounts, not distributed with the allocation for events.
The amount, if you were to stay, and I'm not sure I've ever stayed in a hotel in Rockport, I guess, unless I'm in trouble at home, I'm probably not gonna do that. But I do stay about 300 nights a year in hotels, and I process them for my team as well. It's crazy. And I've been paying attention to those fees at the bottom of my receipts, cause I just turn them into the company. But I'm noticing multiple, there'll be a, city, there'll be do we have one line item if you stay in a hotel here? And I just see these other cities, I mean, they're quite, I've seen $20, $30, $40 a night very easily that are broken up into, county, city, and all kinds of crazy little names. I don't even know what half of it is sometimes. Do we have any ability to expand, what we're charging without, again, chasing people away or what have you? But most of these other municipalities seem to be doing multiple line items.
Craig just said we have 3 line items.
Got the county, the city, and the venue tax.
So,
The city's at max right now, I believe.
but we're looking at some other options that we will not have time to bring back this year. But we definitely are, one of Nanette's tasks is to bring to me every penny we're leaving on the table.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing those back in time. We've talked about some things like, a tourism PID, which, I believe San Antonio does. There's
Dallas does.
2% or 2 cents or 2%, whatever more we can get back for beach cleanup, beach preservation, or shoreline preservation. There's some money on the table that we're looking into. It's just gonna take some time and work.
Okay, so right now we have 3 line items if you stay a night in Rockport. Obviously, county, city, we know where that, there's a venue. What does that one go to?
County venue tax.
The venue tax, and they give it to Pathways.
Okay,
Pathways?
Well,
Yes.
several different.
okay.
Was it Pathways?
Yeah.
Okay.
Warren was the first.
So the county has their own line item they keep, they collect a second one that they dole out to other folks, and then there's ours. Okay, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're already going down that road of looking for any other pennies we're leaving out there, and, especially those folks that are coming and enjoying the, Rockport, if there's a couple more pennies they could leave here to help the taxpayers and what have, that'd be great.
This is for this year, Shelley? For this year's?
For this coming year.
So my only question is, if you're gonna require that verified hotel stays and the room blocks and, or ticket numbers, how are you gonna verify it this year if it's only just a couple months away, if they're doing the applications by now? What was your,
So
how are you
this
guys
would
gonna do
start
that?
in October, and so we would, ask them to get a room block or work with Nanette to get a room block. They would have to know how many room blocks they want.
But with it, this year's application coming up here by April, how are you gonna determine that if they haven't done that in the past year? Because they
We're
didn't know
gonna have
they're,
to move these dates out.
okay,
And they're asking that they get a room block. So if we move it to May or June, we'll ask them to have that room block secured by June or their ticket sales.
yeah, 'cause that just concerns me that if they're doing the application and they didn't have the ability to bring that data in because they didn't know they were supposed to, then we're just turning them away and we
We
didn't do.
will go over all of that as well at the, application orientation to make sure that they understand that they'll either work with Nanette, or get a promo code, or, if it's not a weekend event, but it's a month-long or whatever event, then that's probably where you wanna get a promo code. So Nanette would help them set that up, and then that way, if they stayed in a short-term rental, we would know. If they stayed in a hotel, we would know. When we started looking at ways to be able to give them the opportunity to stay in a short-term rental, the promo code was one of them.
So just an example, you have the art center, the art has their event in July. That was back in July. We're gonna be awarding these applications, these hot funds, and they're not gonna be able to have their event yet and not knowing that they were supposed to do the room blocks or present that data.
So-
How are you gonna make that this year to make sure that they're getting the same kind of treatment because they weren't able to even have that ability to do that?
So this year, the money is already dedicated to them until October 1.
Okay. I know we're going for the next year.
So we will ask them to give us an estimate of what they thought this would be, or what they thought they had, how many overnight stays they had. Placer.ai will help us with that as well.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to go from there.
And they do have to submit that information already on their applications.
Right.
Of what they anticipate the overnight guests and room nights to be.
Yeah, but you're not
We don't
asking.
know how they're, but we don't know how they're coming around with that. What is that?
No, and I understand,
Yeah.
but you're not asking for anticipation now. You're asking for actual data from the room blocks from now on, which is fair. I just want to make sure that if we're going to do that, at this year's application, that they're able to at least, give a fair,
Right.
at the end of the day, so.
It's gonna be rough the first year, but then from then on, it will be very smooth. And, I did talk to another city and asked them about it. They used something very similar. And they said the first year was, a little difficult. There is a city that's close to us, and they make you prove your room blocks or prove all your hotel stays after the event, and then they give you money. So there's some cities that do it, 2 ways. We give before on an estimate, and other cities wait until the event has occurred.
Well, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do think, let me share this formula too that Greg always shares with us in our meetings. It's, for every $1,000 of hot allocated, there has to be $14,300 in room rentals to regenerate that $1,000. That's 130 room nights with an $111 ADR, average daily rate. It's pretty significant. So in the goal, and you know what, we may try this and figure out, it's impossible for them to figure out how to do a room block, or to figure out, they know how to do a room block. But to get that information and to get the information back from a hotel, maybe that's not the metric that works for us. We're trying to figure out who is staying here, who are our guests, how many people are staying overnight, versus us just guessing at who's here and how many room nights we have.
Working with that math, you just said, the 14,300 for every 1,000, so if previous hot allocations, you know, if we gave $1 million or $100,000 to somebody, they would need 1.43 million in hotel stays.
You know, divide it by 7%, you're collecting 7% of that number.
Wow.
You don't get it back until you've rented that much. The reason I dwell on that, because there's a lot of small expenditures that happen, you know, in that small quote-unquote 5,000, but I don't think everybody thinks about how much it takes to regenerate that.
And do we come up with a way between all of us, you know, of saying, this worked in the past, but this works for this city, you know, can we adopt that for us and then see how that works? It's not for us to say, you know, we're laying down the law kind of thing. It's to work together and figure out, because it would be the benefit of their events as well, and the increase of people coming. So that'd be another way.
I think we've proven that we adjust when it's not working, and we'll pivot to what works right. We just are trying to get a very consistent framework so that everybody knows what the expectation is, and it's not just willy-nilly, I'm gonna ask for $10,000 hoping I get 3. Or, you know, I don't have to prove anything or anybody that came in because they just gave me $5,000 to go do my event. It's not the intent of the money, and we're working on a framework, and we will refine it as we go.
Oh, I like what you guys are doing. Those are my only 2 concerns, just to make sure those are tied up. But yeah, I mean, I think what you're doing is what we need to do. We started it last year, and we're keep going, and we're gonna keep, like you said, fine tuning in it and making sure that we're doing it correctly from now
And
on.
they can do a ticket sale and not have to charge for the ticket, but do a ticket sale and then you've got a track.
So this is for you to take home and digest and come back with information. It's been a lot. There's also a contract. There's also not a contract. There's an application, a cheat sheet, and then a calculation sheet. So it is city council meeting time. So take it home, digest it, come back with questions.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we have to adjourn the workshop, and then Shelley has food somewhere. Do we wanna get our sandwich and bring it to the dais and get going with the council meeting? Eat after? What do you wanna do?
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Our meeting should be.
Motion to adjourn the workshop.
We're adjourned.
Should be a very quick meeting.
Good, how are you?
I wonder if I was on the one hand a little bit cold.
Ask Craig to do the math.
Just looking at 911 rooms.
Is that
No.
How are you? Good. Thanks for coming.